Chapter 146. Killing Chen Zhang. Defeated? A figure suddenly fell from the sky like a shooting star and crashed into the ground with a loud bang. A violent tremor resounded, and a huge crater suddenly appeared in the hall. The gazes of the onlookers all converged on the huge pit. They saw a rather miserable figure quietly lying in the pit. The figure was even constantly twitching, and his aura was extremely weak. This person was Chen Zhang, who had reached the half-step King Zhao realm. Traces of astonishment slowly rose in the eyes of the crowd. When they saw that the figure in the crater was indeed the head of the Chen family, Chen Zhang, the astonishment on their faces instantly turned into shock. Thump thump thump. The clear sound of footsteps was slowly transmitted from a short distance away. As the billowing dust settled, a skinny and tall figure was revealed. His delicate and handsome face was filled with a calm expression that was as calm as water. Gazing at the seemingly uninjured youth who had appeared in their line of sight, the gazes of the crowd changed once again. The shock that remained in their eyes was slowly replaced by a sliver of fear. Before stepping into the crater, Zhuan quietly stared at the extremely sorry figure in the crater. His indifferent gaze did not waver at all. Head of the Chen family. Our Zhua family is not a soft persimmon. On the contrary, we are an indestructible jade. If you want to bully our Zhua family, then you should be prepared for the consequences. Our Zhua family will be destroyed together with you. I wonder if your Chen family can bear such consequences? Zhuan said with a calm expression as he gently lifted Chen Zhang's collar. Stop. I don't care about this matter. I beg you, don't kill me. While he was in a daze, Chen Zhang gradually regained his senses. The young man's face was so close that he could clearly see the blazing killing intent deep within the young man's eyes. He knew that the young man in front of him wanted to kill him. Head of the Chen family, it's too late. From the moment your Chen family and the Wang family formed a marriage alliance, it was already too late. Chen Zhang's eyes narrowed as he discovered a pair of closed fingers slowly growing larger and larger in his eyes. Soon after, he felt a sharp pain between his eyebrows as an enormous force invaded his sea of consciousness. Immediately, his consciousness sank into darkness. The instant he killed Chen Zhang, Zhuan took the opportunity to take out the Qiankuan bag from Chen Zhang's waist and unceremoniously stuffed it into his chest. Subsequently, his arm jerked and Chen Zhang's corpse slowly became limp. Boom! The sound of the corpse falling to the ground was not loud in the chaotic hall. Then at this moment many people's minds seemed to be shaken, and they involuntarily looked over. When these gazes stopped on Chen Zhang's corpse, the air in the hall instantly froze. Even the clamorous sounds of fighting in the outer courtyard seemed to have quietly disappeared at this moment. Although Zhuan and Chen Zhang's battle had attracted many people's attention at the beginning, their battle was not as attractive as the battle between Zhuo Xiangding, Wang Yuanxing and Lu Changshang, the three great Zhaoqing realm practitioners. It was only when Chen Zhang fell to the ground and was killed that it attracted everyone's attention in the hall. However, the outcome was completely out of everyone's expectations. Chen Zhang is dead? Looking at Chen Zhang, who had died with his eyes wide open, a perilous storm surged in everyone's hearts at this moment. Chen Zhang was the head of one of the three great families in Rattan Armor City. His cultivation was at the half-step Zhaoqing realm, and he was considered a top expert in the entire Rattan Armor City. Normally he was high and mighty, but now such an expert had died right in front of them. This caused a trace of disbelief to surface in everyone's hearts. These gazes only lingered on Chen Zhang's corpse for a while before they suddenly turned to the young man beside him. Looking at the calm expression on the young man's face, everyone could not help but feel a chill surge from the soles of their feet to the top of their heads. They knew that Chen Zhang, who had once been a big shot in Rattan Armor City, had been killed by this young man who was only 15 or 16 years old. This scene was too shocking, so shocking that it was unbelievable. Even Zhuo Baitian and Zhuo Dingtian, who had been saved by Zhuan, felt dizzy as they stared at Chen Zhang, who had fallen to the ground and died with his eyes wide open. Even the two of them could not have imagined such an outcome. Zhuan, he has actually become so strong? The two of them looked at each other and said the same thing at the same time. In the middle of the hall, three figures swept across like a whirlwind. Along the way, no one dared to stop them. Even the aftermath of the battle between three Zhaoqing realm martial artists was not something that ordinary martial artists could withstand. Zhuo Xiangding, Wang Yuanxing, and Lu Chengshang had been fighting bitterly for a long time. Originally, Zhuo Xiangding was only at the initial human king realm, so he could only fight to a draw with Wang Yuanxing. Even if Lu Chengshang was alone, he would not be a match for him. However, with the help of the gravity tower in his hand, he was able to fight against two experts at the same level as him. One of them was even at the profound human king realm. This showed how terrifying the pressure Zhuo Xiangding was under. After a long and bitter battle, Zhuo Xiangding's body was covered with many terrifying wounds, even with the help of the gravity tower. Streams of cherry-red blood slowly dripped from his wounds. "Old man, let's see how long you can last. Even if you have the support of a mid-level spiritual treasure, you are still no match for me and Senior Lu. I advise you, Zhuo family, to submit to our Wang family and hand over that little bastard Zhuowen. Perhaps your Zhuo family will still have a way out." Wang Yuanxing, who was standing in the middle of the hall, said with a cold smile. "Moreover, don't forget that we still have Chen Shang, who is half a step away from the Zhao King realm. I think Chen Shang has almost finished off the remaining members of your Zhuo family." Haha. Wang Yuanxing looked up to the sky and laughed. His face was full of pride. He looked at Zhuo Xiangding with a trace of arrogance. Even if the Zhuo family had many trump cards, so what? In the end, they were still no match for the Wang family. Chen Shang is dead, however. Wang Yuanxing's smile did not last for long, as an uproar was suddenly transmitted from outside the hall. The corners of the trio's eyes suddenly glanced outside, only to see an ice-cold corpse appear in front of their eyes. When the three of them finally saw the face of the corpse, the smile on Wang Yuanxing's face completely froze. At the same time, a look of horror slowly rose from the bottom of his eyes. However, when Wang Yuanxing heard Zhuo Wen's name from the exclamations outside, his pupils suddenly shrunk. The shock in his eyes suddenly turned into disbelief. "Wang Yuanxing, it seems that Chen Shang, who you rely on, did not finish off the rest of the Zhuo family as you said. Now it seems that he died in an accident." Zhuo Xiangding's face was full of sarcasm. He glanced at Chen Shang's corpse from the corner of his eyes. His heart could not help but tremble violently. From the exclamations just now, he knew that the one who killed Chen Shang was Zhuowen. Although he knew that Zhuowen's mental energy had advanced to rank 2, Chen Shang was, after all, half a step away from the Zhao King realm. He was a powerful existence who only needed half a step to advance to the Zhao King realm. He expected that Zhuowen would be able to stall him, which was the result he had hoped for. However, he did not expect that Zhuowen would use an even more direct method to kill him. "Wang Yuanxing, this old man has already said that the Zhuo family is not easy to deal with. However, if anyone wants to take a bite out of us, they should be prepared to break their teeth." Zhuo Xiangding said with a cold smile. "As long as I break your old bones, the Zhuo family will naturally collapse." Wang Yuanxing's expression gradually returned to normal. Although he found it unbelievable that Zhuowen could kill Chen Shang alone, he also knew that the core of the Zhuo family was Zhuo Xiangding in front of him. As long as Zhuo Xiangding fell, the Zhuo family would not be able to withstand a single blow. He did not even take Zhuowen seriously. After all, he was not Chen Shang and was much stronger than the latter. No matter how strong Zhuowen was, he was only a rank 2 Arcana master. He was definitely not a match for a warrior in the Zhao King realm like him. "You want to break this old man's bones? I'm afraid you don't have the ability," Zhuo Xiangding said with a proud smile. "Then let's try. Senior Lu, let's not delay any longer. Let's get rid of this old man as soon as possible." Wang Yuanxing informed Lu Chengshang, who was beside him. Soon after, an endless amount of yuan power frantically gathered in his hands. A resplendent glow slowly spread out in all directions, just like an electric current, along with a low rumbling sound. This was the Wang family's highest martial art, the high earth tier armor technique, mountain-splitting thunderbolt. When Wang Yuanxing used it, it was like 10,000 bolts of lightning were surging forward. Its momentum was terrifying. "Zhuowen, that guy has indeed exceeded my expectations. You're right. Let's get rid of this old man as soon as possible, then we'll look for Zhuowen." Lu Chengshang nodded slightly. Both of his claws suddenly reached out and viciously clawed at the ground. Immediately, countless amounts of black gas were pulled out from the ground by his claws. Then, the black gas rapidly condensed into a black sphere in the center of his palms. Powerful energy fluctuations, accompanied by endless wails and howls, whizzed out from the black sphere. It was as if the black sphere was imprisoning countless screaming ghosts. Resentful ghost cannonball. A sinister howl came out from Lu Chengshang's mouth. Finally, with a wave of his right hand, the black sphere in the center of his palm was thrown toward Zhuo Xiangding, who was not far away. Like a rapidly flowing missile, it shot straight toward him. Mountain-splitting thunder. Chapter 147. To fight to the last ditch the resentment ghost cannonball, which was condensed with endless black gas, and the mountain-splitting thunderbolt, which was like a mountain intertwined in the entire void, creating a strange mixture of blue and black. It seems like Wang Yuanxing and Lu Chengshang don't want to drag this out any longer. I wonder if Zhuo Xiangding can withstand such an attack. After all, this is the combined attack of two Zhaoqing realm martial artists. Even the people in the hall could feel the enormous power contained in the two attacks in the air. That power had long surpassed the corporeal Yang realm. In their senses, even the half-step King Zhao realm couldn't compare to it. The members of the Zhuo family in the hall also revealed traces of worry on their faces. They had also felt the tremendous power of the two attacks in the air. Due to Zhuowen killing Changshang, the Zhuo family had the upper hand for the time being. However, they also knew that the battle that would determine the survival of the Zhuo family was still the battle between the three Zhuo family warriors. Only if the head of the Zhuo family won this battle would the Zhuo family be able to completely replace the Wang family. Otherwise, the Zhuo family might completely disappear from Vine Armor City. Even the calm Zhuowen could not help but be startled. Although Zhuo Xiangding had the support of the medium-level Soul Treasure Gravity Tower, he was facing two Zhao Kings after all. One of them had even reached the great achievement of the human king. Zhuowen, do you think the patriarch can block this attack? Zhuo Baitian and Zhuo Dingtian had unknowingly appeared behind Zhuowen, and were looking up at the sky with solemn expressions. Zhuo Baitian asked with a sigh. There was a hint of inquiry in his tone, as if he was a junior asking an elder. This somewhat strange tone would seem strange to outsiders. After all, Zhuo Baitian was Zhuowen's uncle in terms of seniority. Even so, Zhuo Baitian still asked the youth in front of him in a condescending tone, as if it was only natural. Even Zhuo Dingtian, who was beside him, did not show the slightest hint of dissatisfaction. It was as if Zhuo Baitian's way of addressing Zhuowen was natural. Zhuowen glanced helplessly at the respectful expressions of his two uncles behind him. He knew that the reason why they were acting this way was because he had just killed Changshang. Actually, I'm not too sure. After all, that was the combined attack of two Zhaoqing realm martial artists. Even with the help of the Gravity Tower, I'm afraid that even if he could block it, he would have to pay a heavy price. Shaking his head slightly, Zhuowen said with a bitter smile. He could also feel the great power of the two attacks. Obviously, Wang Yuanxing and Lu Chengshang were not holding back anymore. They wanted to go all out to take down Zhuo Xiangding. When Zhuo Baitian and Zhuo Dingtian heard this, their faces suddenly changed. Their faces turned pale in an instant. Then they looked at each other and revealed a determined look. Zhuowen, if the head of the family is defeated later, you should run away quickly. We will buy time for you to escape. Now that you have such shocking strength at such a young age, if you continue to develop, it is only a matter of time before you advance to the Zhaoqing realm. With your talent, you can definitely achieve great things in 10 years. So please run away later. The farther the better. After you have achieved something in the future, you can avenge the Zhuo family and rebuild the entire Zhuo family. Zhuo Baitian and Zhuo Dingtian walked in front of Zhuowen, their eyes full of determination. Uncle. Zhuowen was stunned. He did not expect Zhuo Baitian and Zhuo Dingtian to be so courageous. Obviously, they had prepared for the worst. Haha. Zhuowen, I hope you don't take what second uncle did to you back then to heart. It was a moment of folly on my part. Now that the Zhuo family's survival is at stake, second uncle really doesn't want you to resent me because of what happened in the past. Zhuo Dingtian suddenly turned his head and looked at the young man behind him with a guilty and hopeful look in his eyes. Taking a deep breath, Zhuowen felt a little sour in his nose. Even he did not expect the Zhuo family to be so united at such a critical time. Not only Zhuo Baitian and Zhuo Dingtian, but even the other members of the Zhuo family in the hall showed a determined look on their faces. It was a kind of firm and courageous heart that was fearless, knowing that the road ahead was doomed. They wanted to move forward. Uncle, it's all in the past. I don't take it to heart. Moreover, I was wrong to destroy cousin Zhuo Wu's elixir field. I would like to apologize to you for this. Since you have placed the hope of the family on my shoulders, I will not let you down. Zhuowen closed his eyes slightly and then opened them abruptly. He said with a determined look in his eyes. However, while he was speaking, his eyes were fixed on the back of his hands. At this time there were two strange runes on the back of his hands, which were emitting a strange brilliance. Perhaps he would have to use this thing in the end. However, he did not know what kind of price he would have to pay if he used it with all his strength. Even Zhuowen could not estimate it. When Zhuo Dingtian heard this, a gratified smile appeared on his face. He nodded slightly and refocused his eyes on the battlefield in the center of the hall. Young man, are you going to use the Holy Ice Flame rune? At this time, Xiao Hei's voice suddenly appeared in his mind. If grandfather is really defeated, I have no other choice. I don't want the Zhuo family to be destroyed because of me. Zhuowen replied flatly. Young man, you don't know how terrifying the Holy Ice Flame rune is. Although you have obtained a part of the Holy Rune's power, you have not merged the ice and fire energies together. If you really merge the ice and fire energies and an accident occurs, I will not be able to save you. After all, you know what happened to Tyrant Blood back then. Everything needs to be done step by step. You have not completely mastered the Holy Ice Flame rune. If you forcefully merge the two energies together, an accident could easily happen. Moreover, this Lord Dragon's source power has yet to recover. I can only watch with folded arms against you. In his mind, Xiao Hei's voice became a little irritable and a little worried. I understand all these. However, I have said that I will protect my family. Now that my family is in trouble, do you think I will abandon my family and run away alone? You know, that's not my personality at all. Now that things have come to this, we can only fight. Zhuowen shook his head and said firmly. Upon hearing these words, Xiao Hei fell silent. After spending so much time together, he understood the young man in front of him better than anyone else. Although Zhuowen looked like he did not care about many things on the surface, he was a person who valued relationships very much. When Han Shui was in trouble in Luchuan town, he did not hesitate to rescue her. From this point alone, one could see that Zhuowen valued relationships very much. And now the one in trouble was his clan. With Zhuowen's character, it was absolutely impossible for him to abandon his clan and live on by himself. The emotions of humans are so strange. Since you've decided, this Dragon Lord won't stop you anymore. However, don't regret it when the time comes. Xiao Hei's somewhat helpless voice sounded in his mind. Soon after, he fell completely silent. Zhuowen smiled faintly. He knew that since Xiao Hei had said this, he would not stop him. While Zhuowen and Xiao Hei were conversing, the two destructive attacks in the air were like shooting stars. They turned into the air and suddenly fell towards Zhuo Xiangding in the hall. The powerful force even caused an ear-piercing explosion. In the hall, Zhuo Xiangding's back was straight. His eyes were filled with vicissitudes of life, but there was neither sadness nor joy. He only calmly stared at the approaching mountain-splitting thunderbolt and the resentful ghost cannonball. He knew that this was a crucial moment in this battle. If he could block it, his Zhuo family would once again be able to stand tall in Rotten Armor City. If he could not only would he die, his Zhuo family would also cease to exist. Even if this old man's life is on the line, I cannot lose. Zhuo Xiangding suddenly roared towards the sky. Soon after, the gravity tower in his hand rapidly expanded, finally becoming a black tower that was several meters in size. Zhuo Xiangding suddenly carried the black tower and fiercely slammed it into the ground. The entire ground shook violently as if there was an earthquake. Heavy tower suppression. Zhuo Xiangding's hands instantly formed countless hand seals. Finally, his right hand fiercely slapped his chest, and a mouthful of thick blood essence was spat into the black tower. In an instant, the surface of the black pagoda was smeared with a layer of scarlet red. Then, the black pagoda that was originally only a few dozen feet in size began to grow at an astonishing speed. Finally, it turned into a massive black pagoda that was thousands of feet tall. It was like a pillar that supported the heavens, supporting the heavens and the earth. Go! Zhuoxiangding's hands fiercely pulled. Terrifying veins appeared on his face, arms, and even his entire body. The terrifying black tower that was several hundred meters in size was actually forcefully pulled up by his strength alone. Under Zhuoxiangding's terrifying strength, the huge black tower was like an arrow that had been released from a bow. It fiercely shot up into the sky. Wherever it passed, there were countless sounds of air exploding. It was as if countless bombs had exploded, rumbling non-stop in the entire sky. Under everyone's gaze, the huge black tower finally fiercely collided with the mountain-splitting lightning and the resentful ghost cannonball in the sky. Soon after, an intense light, as if it was a scorching sun that was close at hand, was so blinding that everyone couldn't help but close their eyes. Rumble! The violent rumbling sound was as if countless huge thunderbolts were rumbling non-stop at this very moment. For a moment, the entire sky fell into a violent chaos. Chapter 148. Losing the game in the fight. The deathly silence lasted for a while before it was finally broken by a muffled groan. Gotcha! A crisp cracking sound suddenly rang out from the void. Like an echo, it reverberated through the entire sky. Then, everyone squinted their eyes and suddenly saw a figure holding his chest and retreating continuously. Finally, he came to a stop after hitting the hard wall behind him. On the ground in front of him, there were two depressions that were several feet deep, clearly imprinted on the ground. Puff! A mouthful of blood was spat out from this figure's mouth. A rather rapid panting sound violently resounded in this space. The moment this figure appeared, everyone in the hall gathered their gazes on him. When they saw the face of this figure, numerous sighs began to rise and fall in the hall. I didn't expect Zhuoxiangding to be defeated in the end. However, he is only at the initial Human King realm, yet he managed to resist the joint attack of an initial Human King realm martial artist and a profound Human King realm martial artist. This proves his strength. If Lu Chengshang had not appeared in the Wang family today, the Zhuo family would have most likely won. It's just a pity that Wang Yuanqing's preparations are truly terrifying. Now that Zhuoxiangding is defeated, I'm afraid the Zhuo family has no chance at all. Sigh after sigh suddenly resounded in the hall. Everyone looked at the Zhuo family with pity in their eyes. Clutching his chest and coughing up blood, the figure that was almost embedded into the wall was the head of the Zhuo family, Zhuoxiangding. At this moment, Zhuoxiangding's clothes were ragged and his face was extremely pale. Moreover, he would cough up blood from time to time. His aura was extremely weak. Even the middle-grade gravity tower had turned back into a palm-sized tower. The luster on its surface was extremely dim. It was obvious that it had been severely damaged in the collision just now. The members of the Zhuo family turned pale with fright when they saw Zhuoxiangding's dispirited aura. Although many of them had guessed what was going on, all of the members of the Zhuo family revealed distressed expressions when they saw the situation before them. They knew that Zhuoxiangding was the pillar of their Zhuo family. If this pillar collapsed, then their Zhuo family would not be far from extinction. Cough cough. An intense coughing sound was transmitted from the other side at the same time. Immediately, everyone's eyes were attracted by this coughing sound. They saw two human figures slowly appear in front of everyone's eyes from the dust that permeated the sky. These two human figures were Wang Yuanqing and Lu Chengshang, who had joined forces. Both of them were in a rather sorry state. Wang Yuanqing's injuries were more severe. His clothes were torn and tattered, and as he walked, he constantly coughed up blood. Although Wang Yuanqing's injuries seemed to be much better than Zhuoxiangding's, his injuries were still quite severe. After all, Zhuoxiangding had used a desperate move just now. As for Lu Chengshang, because his entire body was covered in a black robe, no one could tell that he was injured. However, judging from his aura, he seemed to be injured as well. However, his injuries were much less severe than Zhuoxiangding's and Wang Yuanqing's. Zhuoxiangding, you old bastard. I didn't expect you to push us to this extent. However, I think you can't even move now. Even if you have a middle-grade soul treasure, you are no match for me and Senior Lu. Wang Yuanqing spat out a mouthful of bloody phlegm. His face was ferocious as he stared at the figure embedded in the wall not far away. Waves of killing intent emerged from his eyes. Old bastard! You can rest in peace now. I will take good care of your Zhuo family for you. Wang Yuanqing's eyes flashed. Immediately, he stomped his feet on the ground. His entire body was like an arrow released from a bow. With a tyrannical speed, he rushed straight towards Zhuo Xiangding. He knew that Zhuo Xiangding's injuries were very severe. Now was the best time to kill him. When he thought of Zhuo Xiangding, who had always been his enemy, dying in front of him, Wang Yuanqing's face suddenly revealed a morbid smile. After so many years of fighting, although the Wang family's strength had always been above the Zhuo family, Zhuo Xiangding's strength had always been on par with his. This was also the reason why the Wang family had never dared to touch the Zhuo family despite their strength. Now that the greatest threat in front of him was about to die in front of him, Wang Yuanqing's heart was filled with excitement. It was like a raging wave that kept rolling in his heart. Seeing Wang Yuanqing getting closer and closer, all the Zhuo family members in the hall turned pale with fright. Father! Zhuo Baitian and Zhuo Dingtian shouted at the same time. Suddenly, they turned into two shadows and rushed towards Wang Yuanqing, intending to stop the former's attack. Overconfident ants! Looking at the fearless Zhuo Baitian and Zhuo Dingtian, Wang Yuanqing licked his lips and sneered. He waved his right hand gently. In an instant, two huge palms swept towards the two men. With a loud bang, the two men were bombarded by the Yuanli palms. They had no power to fight back. With just one palm, the two men's defenses were completely broken. Puff! The two men spat out mouthfuls of blood. Then, like falling leaves, they flew out violently. After rolling a dozen times on the ground, they hit the wall hard and stopped flying. Baitian Dingtian! Wang Yuanqing, you old bastard! If you did not rely on others, your Wang family would not be a match for our Zhuo family. I am not willing to accept this. Looking at the flying Zhuo Baitian and Zhuo Dingtian, Zhuo Xiangding was furious. His eyes were full of hatred as he looked at Wang Yuanqing, who was not far away, with a face full of satisfaction. Although he wanted to rush forward, the serious injuries on his body made it difficult for him to even move. Winner takes all. Zhuo Xiangding, you old bastard, don't you understand this? Even if your heart is filled with unwillingness, you've already lost. That means you've lost, As long as you die, the power of our Wang family will expand to an unprecedented level. We will not even fear the city governor's mansion as much as we did before. Wang Yuanqing laughed arrogantly. Immediately, an endless amount of Yuanli gathered in his hands. Then he clenched his right hand into a fist and punched towards Zhuo Xiangding. So, Zhuo Xiangding, you should die and fulfill our Wang family. Zhuo Xiangding's face was filled with a bitter smile as he looked at the approaching fist. Although he only needed to move his body a little to avoid Wang Yuanqing's punch, the intense pain that filled his mind caused his body to become numb. He was unable to move at all. However, just as Wang Yuanqing's fist was about to hit Zhuo Xiangding's head, a black figure suddenly appeared in front of him. The figure clenched his left hand tightly, and the mysterious rune on the back of his left hand instantly lit up with a fiery red light. However, the moment the light lit up, it turned from a fiery red to a blackish red color. Then, a pillar of fire suddenly surged out from the back of the figure's left hand. Finally, it turned into a black flaming skull that was as tall as a man. The moment the black flame appeared, the temperature of the entire hall rose rapidly. In the end, it reached an extremely shocking height. Even the ground showed signs of cracking because of the high temperature. This flame is so strange. Wang Yuanqing also did not expect that such a sudden change would occur. His pupils shrank slightly, but the power of his fist did not decrease. After all, at this time the arrow was on the bow. If he stopped the attack now, it would inevitably cause a certain backlash to him. Moreover, he had a trace of confidence. Although he had suffered serious injuries in the battle with Zhuo Xiangding, he was still a Zhao king. In this hall, other than Lu Chengshang and Zhuo Xiangding, no one else was worthy of his attention. Bang! Wang Yuanqing's fist finally collided violently with the black flame. One could only hear a soft sizzling sound. Soon after, countless gales violently swept out in all directions between the two like a powerful hurricane. The powerful collision created aftershocks that even shook the hard ground until it cracked open a huge hole. The strong qi wave was like a monstrous wave that exploded in the entire hall. The doors of the entire hall were also blown to pieces at this moment. Powerful gusts of wind spread out. Many corporeal young practitioners in the hall were forcefully swept away and landed outside the courtyard in a sorry state. Bang! The moment everyone swept out of the courtyard, they saw that the pillars of the hall had collapsed. In just a few breaths, the entire hall had turned into ruins. Countless heads were moving about on the empty ground outside the hall. Everyone's gazes were gathered on the hall that had already turned into ruins. Everything that had happened just now happened in a split second. All they saw was an illusory figure standing in front of Zhuo Xiangding. After releasing a strange black flame, the illusory figure violently collided with the rapidly charging Wang Yuanxing. Subsequently, under the powerful force, the entire hall collapsed. Who was that person just now? He actually dared to save someone from Wang Yuanxing's hands. Furthermore, he was actually able to take Wang Yuanxing's attack head-on. His strength is somewhat frightening. I'm not too sure either. However, I feel that the figure is quite familiar. Everything just happened too quickly, so I couldn't see the figure's face clearly. In the open space, an uproar followed. Many people began to talk at once. Their eyes were filled with curiosity. They really wanted to know who the figure that had saved Zhuo Xiangding at the critical moment was. Bang! Just as the crowd was discussing spiritedly, a figure suddenly shot out from the dust-filled ruins. In the end, he staggered and landed on the ground. He actually began to pant violently. The instant this figure appeared, the gazes of everyone on the empty ground shot towards him. When they clearly saw this person's face, the entire place suddenly descended into silence. This was because the owner of this rather miserable figure was actually Wang Yuanxing, who had been wildly laughing a moment ago. However, Wang Yuanxing's following words caused everyone to fall into a daze. Chapter 149. Ice and Fire. What? That figure just now was Zhuowen? It's Zhuowen? This was a little inconceivable. I clearly saw that figure take on Wang Yuanxing's punch and save Zhuo Xiangding. Does Zhuowen have that kind of strength? After a moment of silence, the entire empty ground was in an uproar. The atmosphere in the square gradually became heated up. Bang! In this heated atmosphere, another figure suddenly broke through the ruins and appeared in front of the crowd. The strange thing was that this figure was completely enveloped in black flames. The surging black flames were like a thick black cloud that enveloped his entire body, causing one to be unable to clearly see the true appearance of the person within. This figure was carefully carrying another figure in his hand. This figure was the heavily injured Zhuo Xiangding. Zhuowen slowly landed on the ground and gently placed Zhuo Xiangding to one side. Soon after, he stood up again. However, just as he was about to take a step forward, a hand grabbed onto his collar. Zhuowen, you can't possibly be their match. You'd better run. Grandfather, although I'm heavily injured now, I can still buy you some time if I fight with my life. You must remember that you are the hope of our Zhuo family. As long as you don't die, our Zhuo family will definitely rise again. A deep voice slowly rang out. Zhuo Xiangding's eyes were filled with worry. In front of him was his most valued grandson, and the most talented genius of the Zhuo family. He could not allow anything to happen to him. The black flames gradually dissipated, finally revealing Zhuowen's delicate and handsome face that carried a hint of maturity that did not match his age. When this young man's face appeared in front of the crowd, it once again caused a commotion. They finally believed Wang Yuanxing's words. They did not expect that the person who took on Wang Yuanxing and saved Zhuo Xiangding from his hands was really Zhuowen. Zhuowen did not turn around. He only squinted his eyes and said with a faint smile, "Grandfather, if I let you run away now and leave our Zhuo family to fight a bloody battle, would you do it? Can you do it? As a member of the Zhuo family, do you really think that I would abandon my family and run away alone?" Zhuowen's voice was very soft, but everyone heard it clearly. Zhuo Xiangding was stunned and fell into silence. He was the head of the Zhuo family, and he bore the responsibilities and obligations of the entire family. At the same time, there were his family, friends, and many acquaintances in the family. These were all things that tied his heart down. If he was asked to escape alone and drag out an ignoble existence, he would not be able to do it. Zhuowen, now is not the time to talk about feelings. You are the most talented person in the history of the Zhuo family. You are the cultivator with the greatest hope of reaching the ultimate emperor realm in the past 1,000 years of our Zhuo family's history. As long as you reach the ultimate emperor realm, you will have the possibility of becoming a marquis. Besides that, you also have a powerful spiritual force talent. You are destined to become a high-ranked arcana master in the future. That status will not be inferior to that of a marquis. Zhuowen, do you know that your future is limitless? If you die, it will be a great loss to the Zhuo family. I will also become a sinner of the Zhuo family. Zhuo Xiangding's eyes were bloodshot as he roared. His heart was filled with anger. Grandfather, the reason why I pursue great power is to be able to protect the things and people that I should protect. If I can't protect anything, then what's the point of obtaining great power? If all my family members die, then what's the point even if my cultivation reaches the realm of a saint? So, at this point, Zhuo Wen's footsteps suddenly stopped. He turned his head slightly and took a deep look at the old man behind him. He could still see the wrinkles on the old man's face that were like ravines and the strands of white hair that were like snow. So please don't make me make a choice that I will regret. Zhuo Xiangding's pupils abruptly shrunk when he heard these words. He was just about to blurt out another word when he suddenly stopped. His somewhat dim eyes suddenly emitted a dazzling glow at this moment. In the end, he sighed and looked at the figure that was gradually disappearing into the distance. He suddenly felt that the youth in front of him had completely matured at this moment. However, the words that the youth had said before he left caused a bright light to surge in his eyes. Your injuries may seem serious, but they haven't harmed your foundation. This pill can help you recover in a short period of time, so I will help you buy some time. With a flip of his right hand, a medicinal pill lay quietly in the center of his palm. A wave of medicinal power was emitted from the medicinal pill. This medicinal pill was secretly stuffed into his hand by Zhuo Wen just now. Zhuowen, Grandpa will trust you this once, so you must hold on. Zhuo Xiangding muttered to himself as he looked at the youth's figure that was gradually disappearing into the distance. As he stared at the youth that was approaching step by step, Wang Yuanqing's gloomy eyes became increasingly gloomy. Traces of a cruel expression continuously flashed in the depths of his eyes. Zhuowen, bastard, you have some guts. You clearly know that that old bastard Zhuo Xiangding has been defeated, but you didn't choose to run away. I don't know if I should say that you have a backbone, or that you are stupid. Old dog Wang, you talk a lot of nonsense. If your injuries were perfect, perhaps I would not be your opponent. However, you seem to be seriously injured now. How much of your strength can you use? Do you really think that you can take me down? Stopping 100 steps in front of Wang Yuanqing, Zhuowen glanced at the rather battered Wang Yuanqing and said calmly. Wang Yuanqing was stunned. Immediately, the veins on his forehead bulged and the corners of his eyes fiercely twitched. Little bastard, you really have guts. Death is at hand and you still dare to speak such arrogant words. Let's see if you can still be so arrogant after I break all your limbs. Moreover, even if I am seriously injured, dealing with you will be as easy as blowing off dust. At this point, Wang Yuanqing suddenly turned to the black-robed man, Lu Chengshang, who was standing on the railing not far behind him. He clasped his hands and said, Senior Lu, let me deal with this little bastard. There is no need to dirty Senior's hands. Lu Chengshang's eyes narrowed as he looked deeply at Wang Yuanqing. He laughed and said, Since Wang family head wants to deal with this kid personally, I will naturally not interfere. However, the Qinquan bag in this kid's hands, Wang Yuanqing trembled and immediately laughed dryly. I will naturally not take it for myself. When the time comes, I will naturally let Senior Lu have the first pick of the items inside. Wang family head is indeed a reasonable person. However, I hope that Wang family head can quickly deal with this kid. Lu Chengshang laughed strangely. Wang Yuanqing nodded slightly. His gaze once again focused on the youth in front of him and he replied indifferently. Naturally, I will do it as soon as possible. This kid only needs one move and I will be able to thoroughly deal with him. As he spoke, Wang Yuanqing's foot suddenly stomped. Powerful yuan power immediately poured out like a tidal wave, causing the entire space to tremble. His entire body was like a nimble monkey as he shot straight towards Zhuowen. At this moment, in the entire open space, Everyone's gazes were focused on the distant confrontation between Wang Yuanqing and Zhuowen. When they saw that Wang Yuanqing had made the first move, it instantly caused an uproar. As he stared at the approaching Wang Yuanqing, Zhuowen's eyes slightly narrowed. Soon after, the tip of his foot pushed off the ground. His entire body was like a monkey as he somersaulted backwards and dodged the kick that was heading towards his original spot. Boom! The ground where Zhuowen had previously stood was instantly blasted into a deep pit, and Wang Yuanqing's figure appeared at the same spot. Your reaction is not bad. However, how many of my attacks can you dodge? Wang Yuanqing chuckled. His entire body once again transformed into a hurricane as he swept towards Zhuowen. His moves had also become increasingly vicious. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with seriousness. Soon after, he suddenly pulled out the dragon vein blade. Following which, his left hand rubbed against the blade. On the back of his left hand, the fire symbol instantly spat out black flames and enveloped the entire dragon vein blade. At this moment, the surface of the dragon vein blade was covered with dense black flames. It looked exceptionally strange. As he stared at the dragon vein blade that was covered with black flames, a cold glint flashed across Zhuowen's eyes. Soon after, the tip of his foot moved and his entire body made a half-turn on the spot. Both of his hands gripped the hilt of the blade, and he viciously flung it out with a tyrannical force. The dragon vein blade was wrapped in black flames. It was like a thick door as it viciously swept towards Wang Yuanqing. As he watched the dragon vein blade rapidly fly towards him, a vicious glint flashed across Wang Yuanqing's eyes. Soon after, his right hand transformed into a claw. His eagle-like claws actually wanted to meet the dragon vein blade head-on. Boom! When the two collided, endless gales swept out like countless tornadoes. The entire space was filled with dazzling colors. Break for me! What shocked everyone was that Wang Yuanqing's claws were as hard as steel, and he was able to withstand the dragon vein saber with his bare hands. Everyone could feel the powerful might of the dragon vein saber, but Wang Yuanqing was able to withstand it with his bare hands without falling into a disadvantageous position. This action once again allowed everyone to witness the powerful strength of a Zhao King realm cultivator. At the same time, it also caused everyone to have a deeper reverence for a King Zhao realm practitioner. Wang Yuanqing's words had just sounded when a cluster of blazing golden light emerged from his hand claw. Soon after, the dazzling golden light, which was like a scorching sun, suddenly spread out and enveloped the entire dragon rune blade. Crack! A crisp sound instantly spread across the open space. Immediately after, the black flames on the surface of the dragon vein blade receded like a receding tide. As the black flames receded, traces of cracks actually appeared on the blade of the dragon vein blade. These traces of cracks were like a spider web that gradually spread out around the blade. Finally, under this force, the dragon vein blade actually shattered into pieces and scattered all over the ground. Little bastard, this blade should be a low-grade spiritual treasure. If you say that you're relying on this saber, then I think you've failed. Wang Yuanqing said coldly as he waved his right hand and slapped the shattered dragon vein blade to the side. However, he quickly felt that something was wrong. This was because he did not see Zhuowen's figure. Old dog, is there something wrong with your brain? Did you really think that the attack just now was my full strength? Now I will show you the reason why I dare to challenge you. A crisp voice suddenly came from behind him. Immediately after, Wang Yuanqing turned his head and coincidentally saw the face of the young man right in front of him. At this moment, the young man in front of him revealed a sinister smile. Immediately after, the young man waved his right hand. The ice rune on the back of his right hand immediately lit up with an intense icy blue light. The moment the light lit up, an endless stream of cold air intertwined behind the young man to form a huge icy blue eyeball. This is the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye. Chapter 150. The fallen Wang Yuanqing's scream instantly spread throughout the entire open space, attracting the attention of everyone in the open space. Swoosh! Numerous gazes quickly gathered on the body of a young man not far away. Their gazes roamed around before they fixed their gazes on the enormous icy blue eyeball behind the young man. Endless streams of cold air intertwined and swept across the eyeball, looking exceptionally strange. It really is the innate fiend Dark Eye. Although its size is much smaller, Its aura is very similar to the Heaven Fiend Netherworld Eye in the Annihilation Forest. The Heaven Fiend Dark Eye should be a naturally formed cold air current. Why is Zhuowen able to use this kind of cold air current? Didn't you hear that Zhuowen escaped from the Heaven Fiend Nether Eye? Perhaps this kid obtained a lot of benefits from it. An uproar followed. Many people looked at Zhuowen with a trace of respect in their eyes. After all, a practitioner who could walk out of the Heavenly Fiend Dark Eye's hopeless situation was already proof of this practitioner's strength. Needless to say, he also had the ability to control the Heavenly Fiend Dark Eye's cold air. Not far away, Lu Changshang quietly leaned against the wall. His eyes flashed as he looked at Zhuowen with a thoughtful expression. He is actually able to control the cold airflow within the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye. Looks like the benefits he obtained from the Qiankuan bag may be beyond my expectations. Lu Chengshang muttered in a low voice. However, his gaze grew increasingly fiery and greedy. The more valiant Zhuowen's performance was, the more anticipation he had in his heart. This also meant that the Qiankuan bag in Zhuowen's hands was even more precious. A little warrior of the Yin Void Realm could reach such a powerful level. If he could get it, he might be able to break through the Human King Realm and reach the Earth King Realm, or even the Heavenly King Realm. On the empty ground, Zhuowen glanced at the huge icy blue eye behind him in astonishment. Even he did not expect that when he released all the cold chi that the ice symbol had absorbed from the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye, it would actually form an eyeball that was similar to the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye. From the giant eye behind him, he could feel the great power contained in it. Although this power was not as great as the real Heaven Fiend Eye, it was far beyond that of a half-step King Zhao realm warrior. Slowly recovering from his astonished expression, Zhuowen's feet suddenly stomped on the ground. Dragging the enormous icy blue eyeball behind him, he shot straight towards Wang Yuanqing like an arrow that had left a bow. Endless cold air was continuously released around Zhuowen's body as he moved, causing a layer of crystal-clear ice to form on the ground. What surprised Zhuowen was that the small Heaven Fiend Dark Eye that had condensed behind him had a great effect on his attack. Whether it was his speed or his attack at this moment, they were both greatly enhanced. Moreover, the cold air currents in the small dark Sky Fiend's eyes were like his left and right arms. As long as he willed it, the cold air currents would automatically appear around his body and protect him. Zhuowen was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he appeared above Wang Yuanqing's head. Immediately, Zhuowen clenched his 5 fingers into a fist. Carrying countless cold air currents, he fiercely punched towards Wang Yuanqing's head. Wang Yuanqing also slowly recovered from his shock. He could tell that the eyeball behind Zhuowen was not the real Heaven Fiend Dark Eye. The power within it was much weaker. Therefore, the worry in his heart was put to rest at this moment. Deliberately mystifying little brat. Since you're so overconfident, this old man will fulfill your wish and let you die a quick death. Wang Yuanqing suddenly stepped aside. His whole body was like a ghost, and he easily dodged Zhuowen's punch. At the same time, a dark and ruthless expression flashed across Wang Yuanqing's eyes. Immediately, he grabbed Zhuowen's fist with both hands. Lowering his shoulders, his steel-like knee was like a spring as it ferociously kicked towards Zhuowen's abdomen. Boom! A dull sound suddenly resounded in the entire space. Soon after, Wang Yuanqing's wild laughter suddenly rang out. Zhuowen, the gap between you and me is as wide as a chasm. Even if I am seriously injured, I am not someone who can be provoked by a cat or a dog like you. Therefore, you are destined to have this kind of result. Wang Yuanqing's knee finally fiercely hit Zhuowen's lower abdomen. Wang Yuanqing was very clear about the power of his knee attack. Not to mention Zhuowen, who was only in the Yin Void Realm, even a warrior in the King Zhao realm at the same level would not be able to survive it. However, his smile only lasted for a moment before it froze. This was because the scene of Zhuowen clutching his abdomen and slowly collapsing did not appear. The young man in front of him actually abruptly raised his head. A trace of a strange smile was actually revealed on his delicate and handsome face. Old dog, is this the extent of your attack? If this is the extent of your attack, then your strength as a warrior in the King Zhao realm is not that great. The young man grinned. Immediately, the pupils of the small Heaven Fiend Dark Eye behind him suddenly converged on Wang Yuanqing. In the huge pupil, Wang Yuanqing could even see his own reflection. At the same time, Wang Yuanqing felt a slight numbness in his knee. When he looked down, he was shocked to find that his knee did not hit Zhuowen's abdomen, but was blocked by a layer of strange cold air. How is this possible? How could a bastard like you block my attack? What happened to my attack just now? Even if you have level 2 mental strength, it is impossible for you to block the full attack of a warrior in the King Zhao realm. Traces of horror slowly rose from the depths of Wang Yuanqing's eyes. He was also shocked and fell into a momentary daze. A glint flashed across Zhuowen's eyes. The pupils of the small heaven fiend dark eye behind him suddenly shrunk and locked onto Wang Yuanqing in an instant. Soon after, the eyeball collapsed and transformed into hundreds and thousands of sharp blade-like cold air flows that enveloped Wang Yuanqing like a huge mouth. The moment the endless cold air currents enveloped him, Wang Yuanqing recovered from his daze. He stared at the hundreds and thousands of cold air currents rushing towards him. Even he felt a chill in his heart. Zhuowen, you little bastard. Don't think that these cold air currents can do anything to me. Mountain-splitting thunderbolt, break for me. Wang Yuanqing waved his hands. In an instant, countless lightning bolts surged out from his hands. It was as if 10,000 lightning bolts were galloping. His hands emitted a blazing blue electric light. The moment the blue electric light condensed, Wang Yuanqing raised his hands and pushed them forward. The blazing electric light immediately turned into a lightning mountain that was dozens of feet tall. As it turned, it crushed the countless cold air currents. Rumble! In the empty space, hundreds and thousands of cold air currents were like 10,000 swords. Finally, they violently collided with the mountain-splitting thunderbolt. The moment the two collided, the entire world came to a standstill. Bang! However, this silence only lasted for a moment. Under everyone's tightened gazes, the dozens of feet tall lightning mountain in the middle of the empty space actually began to tremble violently under the countless cold air currents. This trembling only continued for a moment. Immediately, one could hear a clear cracking sound that suddenly sounded in the quiet empty ground. Immediately, everyone was surprised to discover that traces of crack lines had actually appeared on the surface of the enormous lightning mountain. The cracks were like a spider web that continuously spread in all directions. When the cracks finally spread to the edges, the lightning mountain once again trembled violently. Immediately, under Wang Yuanqing's abruptly shrunk eyes, it actually began to crumble inch by inch. Rumble! In the end, the huge mountain completely collapsed. Countless cold air currents fought to be the first to pounce down, completely enveloping Wang Yuanqing's figure. Under the descent of the cold air currents, the entire empty space also fell into an intense tremor. After the tremor slowly stabilized, a tall figure slowly appeared in front of everyone. Swoosh swoosh! Numerous gazes were attracted by this figure. When everyone saw the youth on this figure's face, the entire place instantly fell into silence. This was because this tall figure was not the Wang Yuanqing that they had always thought highly of. Instead, it was the young man Zhuowen. As the dust gradually dispersed, a deep pit entered everyone's line of sight beside the figure of the young man that stood in front of everyone's eyes. The instant the deep pit appeared, everyone's gazes turned one after another and gathered at the deep pit. They also saw a figure within the deep pit. This figure's clothes were tattered, and there were countless wounds on his body. Cherry red blood flowed out like a faucet that had not been turned on properly. Moreover, his body was constantly twitching and rolling. Staring at the deep pit, the figure's aura was extremely weak and he was twitching as if he was having a seizure. Finally, a trace of shock appeared in everyone's eyes. This was because the figure that appeared in the deep pit was none other than the head of the Wang family, Wang Yuanqing. No one had expected that not only did Wang Yuanqing fail to finish off Zhuowen, he had even been reduced to such a state. Everyone knew that the current Wang Yuanqing was probably hopeless. When everyone's gazes once again gathered on the young man, the shock in their eyes was gradually replaced by respect. Being able to kill Wang Yuanqing, who was at the Zhao King realm, meant that this young man had completely entered the ranks of the top experts in Vine Armor City. Thump! In a corner of the empty space, Zhuo Xiangding, who was originally secretly vexed, stared fixedly at the figure that was on the brink of death in the deep pit. After confirming that the figure was indeed Wang Yuanqing, his gaze slowly shifted to the right and finally gathered on the figure of the young man standing upright. His mouth was wide open and his heart was violently twitching at this moment. After remaining silent for a long time, his lips trembled as he spoke. Chapter 151. Endless trouble. Wang Yuanqing's body lay quietly in the deep pit. At this moment there was no longer any trace of life in his body. He was clearly dead. Following Wang Yuanqing's death, the entire hall fell into an eerie silence. The Wang and Chen families, who had been fighting to the death with the Zhuo family, also inexplicably stopped at this moment. Chen Sheng was dead. Now even Wang Yuanqing, who had reached the Zhao King realm, had fallen in front of everyone's eyes. The heads of the two most powerful forces in Rattan Armor City had both fallen today. This shocking and somewhat suffocating phenomenon caused everyone's hearts to twitch violently. Moreover, what caused the crowd to feel even more disbelief was that the two former clan heads had actually fallen at the hands of a single person. Moreover, that person was the young figure standing nearby. Moreover, that person's name was Zhuo Wen. The Wang and Chen families are finished. Gazing at the young man standing silently in the same spot, as well as the motionless Wang Yuanqing lying in the deep pit, everyone knew that in the future, the three major clans of Rattan Armor City would completely disappear. Only Zhuo Wen's clan would remain. And without the Wang and Chen family's obstruction, the Zhuo family's power would probably expand at a terrifying speed in the following period of time. Lu Chengshang, who was originally standing not far away with his arms crossed as if he was watching a good show, also did not expect that Wang Yuanqing, whose cultivation had already reached the Zhao King realm, would actually be taken care of by Zhuo Wen. This kind of result was already greatly out of his expectations. This kid must die. Otherwise there will be endless trouble in the future. Lu Chengshang's pupils slowly contracted. If it was said that he had treated Zhuo Wen with a playful attitude at the beginning, then after personally witnessing Zhuo Wen kill Wang Yuanqing, who was already at the Zhao King realm, his playful attitude slowly faded away. What replaced it was a dignified feeling. The young man in front of him had a pitifully low cultivation, but even with such a low cultivation, he was always able to kill cultivators whose cultivation was much higher than his at the last moment. Chen Sheng was like this, and Wang Yuanqing was also like this. As he thought of this, traces of chilling killing intent suddenly flared up in Lu Chengshang's eyes, just like sparks of fire in a prairie. Soon after, traces of black qi began to condense in his right hand, as a strange smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. Soon after, his entire body transformed into a ghostly shadow. Beside the crater, Zhuo Wen gently clutched his chest with his right hand. His youthful face was completely pale. Activating the Saint Rune with all his might had been a huge burden for Zhuo Wen. After all, Zhuo Wen had only obtained the Saint Rune for a short period of time. If he wanted to completely master it, he would need a lot of time. Activating the Saint Rune with all my might is already so taxing. If the Saint Rune of Ice and the Saint Rune of Fire were to be used together, I'm afraid that even I would find it difficult to bear the pressure. From his Qiankuan bag, Zhuo Wen took out a few pills that were full of medicinal energy. After swallowing them all in one go, he finally recovered his breath. Under the effects of the pills, the originally exhausted Yuan power in his Dantian showed signs of swelling again. The Jade Cauldron Armor Spirit's soul skill, Undying Essence, also continuously transmitted green energy into his limbs and bones. Soon the injuries in his body slowly healed. Just as Zhuo Wen was slowly recovering from his injuries, an indescribable sense of danger suddenly filled his heart. At this moment Xiao Hei's voice rang out in his mind. "Kid, be careful behind you. That old man Lu Chengshang wants to sneak up on you." Zhuo Wen's gaze abruptly froze as he tilted his head slightly. Instantly, he discovered that Lu Chengshang's sinister skeletal face was right in front of him. On his almost fleshless face, there was a sinister laughter that made one shudder. "Kid, your various performances have truly exceeded this old man's expectations. However, this glorious battle record of yours will end here. This old man will personally send you to hell." A strange laughter instantly filled Zhuo Wen's ears. Soon after, Lu Chengshang suddenly stretched out a withered arm. On the arm there was a viscous black qi. It looked like a wooden stick covered in grease. Lu Chengshang pointed it straight at Zhuo Wen's forehead. As he stared at the withered arm that was getting closer and closer, Zhuowen's heart was filled with an unconcealable sense of danger. He could feel the immense power contained in the arm before him. He knew that if he was touched by this arm, his fate would not be too good. Rumble. At this moment of life and death, the fire symbol on the back of Zhuowen's left hand instantly emitted a dazzling light. Soon after, blazing black flames immediately gushed out from the fire symbol, transforming into a gigantic flaming palm that viciously met Lu Changshang's arm. Bang! What caused Zhuowen's pupils to shrink was that the palm formed from black flames was actually only able to withstand the attack of the withered arm for a moment. Soon after, traces of cracks appeared on the surface of the black flame palm. In the end, with a cracking sound, the black flame palm was instantly turned into dust. After the withered arm destroyed the black flame palm, it was like a rainbow piercing through the sun as it ferociously pierced through the air and pointed at Zhuowen. Fortunately, the black flame palm had bought precious time for Zhuowen. Taking advantage of this time, Zhuowen was able to react and shift his body slightly. The instant the withered arm arrived, Zhuowen avoided a vital spot. Plop! A mouthful of cherry-red blood instantly spurted out from Zhuowen's mouth. In the end, the withered arm viciously slammed into Zhuowen's right shoulder blade. Under the powerful force, Zhuowen's body was like a falling leaf as it ferociously flew backwards. While flying backwards, Zhuowen forcefully endured the injuries in his body as he fiercely twisted his waist. His entire body stood up in a strange posture in the air. Finally, his feet fiercely stomped on the ground, leaving behind 2 extremely deep marks on the ground. Only then did he forcefully stop himself 100 steps away. After coming to a stop, Zhuowen's face reddened once again as he spat out another mouthful of scarlet blood. His eyes narrowed slightly as he stared at Lu Changshang, who was completely covered in a black robe. Zhuowen also did not expect that Lu Changshang, a Zhao King stage expert, would actually launch a sneak attack from behind. If not for the fire symbol automatically activating at the moment of his life and death, Zhuowen's current condition would not be as simple as just being injured. Your reaction is not bad. You were actually able to dodge my attack. Lu Changshang licked his lips as he laughed sinisterly. From Lu Changshang's sneak attack to Zhuowen being injured and sent flying, all of this happened in the blink of an eye. Before anyone could react, they saw that Zhuowen had actually been sent flying backwards with injuries. For a moment, the entire open space became somewhat quiet. Everyone's gazes were somewhat puzzled as they stared at the black-robed Lu Changshang. Everyone present naturally knew that the mysterious black-robed man in front of them was invited by Wang Yuanxing. Therefore, from their point of view, this person was most likely invited by Wang Yuanxing with a large sum of money. However, now that Wang Yuanxing was already dead, they did not expect that the black-robed man did not have the slightest intention of leaving. Instead, he wanted to kill Zhuowen. Dealing with the Zhuo family right now was not a wise decision. After all, the Wang family had already fallen. Even if the black-robed man killed Zhuowen, he did not seem to have promised him a reward after the event. However, everyone simply did not know that Lu Changshang's real goal was not the reward from the Wang family, but the tyrannical blood Qingkuan bag in Zhuowen's hands. Only he knew how precious the tyrannical blood Qingkuan bag was. Zhuowen, now you better hand over the Qingkuan bag. Perhaps this old man can still leave your corpse intact. Otherwise, this old man will let you experience the feeling of living a life worse than death. Lu Changshang's gaze stared straight at the youth in front of him as a strange laughter that was hard to hear came from his mouth. If you really want it, then come and take it yourself. However, I think this plan of yours will fail. That expert's Qingkuan bag has long been hidden in a place that only I know of. Even if you kill me, you will not be able to obtain the Qingkuan bag. Clutching his chest, Zhuowen coldly laughed as he spoke. What a stubborn fellow. However, you also know that this old man's patience is extremely limited. Since you don't want to hand it over, this old man can only kill you. Then extract your soul and refine your memories. At that time, your soul will not fall into the cycle of reincarnation, and will suffer eternally. Speaking up to here, Lu Changshang's foot suddenly stomped on the ground, and an endless amount of black gas enveloped his entire body like a blurry black fog. Soon after, it turned into a black arrow and fiercely flew towards Zhuowen. A wise man submits to circumstances. Since you don't know what's good for you, then you can die for this old man. Lu Chengxiang's figure instantly arrived. In the blink of an eye, his figure appeared above Zhuowen's head. Both of his hands swiped, and countless amounts of black gas turned into two huge black claws in his hands. Finally, they ruthlessly pierced towards Zhuowen's head. So fast, Lu Chengxiang's speed immediately caused an uproar in the open space. When the crowd saw that Lu Chengxiang had actually appeared above Zhuowen's head in an instant, a trace of regret appeared on their faces. They knew that under Lu Chengxiang's attack, it would be very difficult for Zhuowen to escape. Although many people did not dare to underestimate Zhuowen because he had killed Wang Yuanxing with such a powerful force, they also knew that the main reason why Zhuowen was able to kill Wang Yuanxing was that Wang Yuanxing had been seriously injured in the battle with Zhuoxiangding at the beginning. His strength had been reduced to less than 10%, which was why Zhuowen was able to kill him. However, Lu Chengxiang was different. After all, Lu Chengxiang's cultivation had reached the profound human king realm. Moreover, in the battle just now, his injuries were much smaller than Wang Yuanxing's. Therefore, Lu Chengxiang was much more terrifying than Wang Yuanxing. I really didn't expect Zhuowen to die in the end. His performance today is just too dazzling. At such a young age, this young man was able to kill Chen Sheng, the head of the Chen family, and Wang Yuanxing, the head of the Wang family. With such strength and talent, even in the Qingxian Empire, he would be considered a genius. It's just a pity that this young man will not be able to survive the attack of a profound human king realm expert. Chapter 152. Ice Fiend in the right hand, Black Flame in the left. Bang! A thunderous sound instantly rose from the ground. However, what caused the crowd to be shocked was that the youth on the empty ground was not killed by Lu Chengxiang as they had expected. Instead, he was still quietly standing at his original spot. Above the youth's head, a gigantic black spire had unknowingly appeared. It spanned across the empty space, coincidentally blocking Lu Chengxiang's path. The intense sound disappeared like a night-blooming epiphyllum. Immediately, endless air waves surged out and swept in all directions. Quite a number of surrounding martial artists involuntarily retreated over a dozen steps before they were able to stabilize their footing. A muffled groan sounded out. Soon after, the crowd was shocked to see Lu Chengxiang actually being sent flying a dozen steps by the Black Spire's immense power, only stopping his footsteps a short distance away. Lu Chengxiang, if you want to touch my grandson, you'll have to get past me first. A beast-like roar instantly sounded out in the empty space. Soon after, a burly figure, like an arrow released from a bow, appeared on top of the Black Spire. His arms were crossed over his chest, as he coldly looked down at Lu Chengxiang below. When everyone's gazes converged on this burly figure, the scene instantly fell into a strange silence. This silence only lasted for a moment, before it exploded. A clamorous uproar swept across the empty space. Zhuoxiangding? He can actually still move? Wasn't he seriously injured by Wang Yuanxing and Lu Chengxiang to the point where he could barely move? Why does he look so lively now? Although Zhuoxiangding's aura is currently somewhat chaotic, it is much better than before. Moreover, it seems that the strength in his body has recovered quite a bit. The sounds of discussion continued without end. Everyone's gazes were puzzled as they looked at Zhuoxiangding, who had appeared on top of the Black Spire. They could never have imagined that a person who was seriously injured and on the verge of death would now look completely fine. How is this possible? This old man knows the extent of the injuries on your body the best. It's impossible for you to recover from your injuries in such a short time. Not far away, Lu Chengxiang clutched his chest as he stared at Zhuoxiangding, who was standing on top of the Black Tower, and shouted hysterically. He had never thought that at the most crucial moment, his plan would be ruined by Zhuoxiangding. Even if he was a good-tempered person, he would still feel anger in his heart. Zhuoxiangding glanced indifferently at Lu Chengxiang, whose face was filled with disbelief. Soon after, Zhuoxiangding tilted his head slightly to look at the tall and straight figure of the youth below, as traces of gentleness appeared in his eyes. Zhuowen, the effect of your pill is really good. It can actually heal my injuries to such an extent in such a short period of time. This is really beyond my expectations. Zhuoxiangding's voice was very soft, But the cultivators on the open ground were not mediocre. Naturally, they could hear the content of Zhuo Xiangding's words. From Zhuo Xiangding's words, it was not difficult to discover that the recovery of his injuries seemed to have an inseparable relationship with Zhuowen. It was even possible that his injuries were healed by Zhuowen. Thinking of this possibility, the way everyone looked at Zhuo Xiangding's figure suddenly changed. Even they did not expect that Zhuowen would have such a miraculous healing item on him. Grandfather, let's not talk about this for now. Let's deal with this guy in front of us first. Zhuowen nodded slightly, but in his heart, he let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that the effect of the pill was beyond his expectations. That pill was refined from a type of 4th-grade pill that Zhuowen had obtained from the Tyrant Blood Universe bag. It had a very good suppressive effect on injuries. That's right. This person once wanted to destroy our Zhuo family. Our Zhuo family will not let him go. On the Black Tower, Zhuo Xiangding narrowed his eyes and said with a faint smile, "Let's do it." Zhuowen and Zhuo Xiangding looked at each other. Immediately, the two of them turned into phantoms and rushed directly toward Lu Changshang. They knew that the real troublesome person this time was not Wang Yuanxing, but the Lu family's ancestor Lu Changshang, who had suddenly appeared. The cultivation of the profound human king realm was not something an ordinary cultivator could compare with. Humph! What's the use of your injuries being healed? After all, this old man's cultivation is one level higher than yours. Now that you have taken the initiative to attack, you are simply courting death. The corners of Lu Chengshang's mouth curled into a strange smile. Immediately his hands formed a complicated seal. Then, his hands suddenly pressed against the ground. Suddenly, an endless amount of black gas floated up and enveloped Lu Chengshang's entire body. Since you insist on courting death, this old man will fulfill your wish. Heavenly demon body. An eerie voice suddenly spread out from the black fog. Immediately, two huge black palms violently blasted toward Zhuowen and Zhuo Xiangding, who were rushing toward them. Boom! Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. Endless black flames burst out from the fire rune and completely blocked the black palms. However, the powerful impact pushed Zhuowen's body back. After retreating more than 10 meters, Zhuowen twisted his waist and touched the ground with the tip of his foot. He stopped on the ground like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. Zhuo Xiangding was also pushed back by the black palms. He landed on the ground not far from Zhuowen. After pushing back the two of them, the black palms retreated into the black fog like a tide. Then, a shrill scream suddenly spread out from the black fog. After a while, the black fog gradually dissipated. When the black fog finally dissipated, a black shadow that was almost 10 feet tall suddenly appeared in front of everyone. When everyone saw the face of the black shadow, they could not help but suck in a breath of air. Their eyes were filled with shock. The black shadow was almost 10 feet tall. Its head was almost as tall as two people. Its body was full of strong muscles and its dark skin was shining with a black light. What was even more inconceivable was that the face of the black shadow was actually a fleshless skull. It looked exceptionally ferocious. Hehe. I really did not expect that you would be able to force me to use the heavenly demon body. This old man has not used this kind of secret technique for hundreds of years. Therefore, you should be proud that you were able to force me to this extent. The two rows of teeth on the skull opened and closed, and a bone-chilling voice slowly spread out. Zhuowen and Zhuo Xiangding's eyes narrowed. Their faces became serious. They could feel that the strange giant in front of them contained an enormous amount of power. I really did not expect that Lu Chengshang did not use his full strength in the battle just now. This old man really hit his strength well. Zhuowen's expression tightened as he muttered to himself. Zhuowen, today no matter what, you will hand over the Qingquan bag. Even if I have to extract your soul and refine it, I will make you tell me the whereabouts of the Qingquan bag. Also, no one from the Zhuo family can escape. This is the consequence of offending this old man. Lu Chengshang's feet, which were like iron pillars, suddenly stomped on the ground. Like a spring, he shot towards the place where Zhuo and Zhuo Xiangding were. Wherever he passed, countless hurricanes exploded in the air, accompanied by the sound of air explosions. Zhuowen, this guy's strength has multiplied. I'm afraid that even if we attack together, we won't be his match. Zhuo Xiangding's face was full of seriousness. He glanced at the young man beside him and frowned. Grandpa, I still have a trump card in my hand. However, if I use this trump card, I'm afraid it will take some time. So, can you buy me some time? His eyes flickered for a while. Finally, a trace of determination appeared in his eyes. He gritted his teeth and said, Lu Changshang's strength had already reached the profound human king realm. Now, because of the heavenly devil body, his strength had increased to another level. He was probably at the complete human king realm. Zhuowen knew very well that even if the two of them joined forces, they would not be Lu Changshang's match. It was only a matter of time before Lu Changshang was defeated. So thinking of this, Zhuowen took a deep breath and looked at the two runes on the back of his hands again. So the only hope now was the Holy Ice Fire rune. Only by using the Holy Ice Fire rune to fuse the two extreme energies of ice and fire, and create an explosive 5-colored energy ball, they might be able to defeat Lu Changshang. Do you really have a way to defeat Lu Changshang? Zhuo Xiangding's heart throbbed when he heard this. He looked deeply at the young man in front of him. He suddenly felt that his grandson had become more and more mysterious in his eyes. Even he was helpless against an expert like Lu Changshang. Zhuowen actually said that he could defeat him. This was really beyond his expectations. Yes. Zhuowen nodded heavily. Good. Grandpa will do his best to help you delay Lu Changshang. However, I'm afraid that I can't delay him for too long. So you'd better hurry. Zhuo Xiangding nodded slightly. Then he dragged the gravity tower with his right hand and rushed toward Lu Changshang without fear of death. Boom! In an instant, the two collided in the open space. As their fists and palms collided, countless shockwaves swept out. The invisible energy ripples even cracked the ground. In the blink of an eye, the two had exchanged several blows. Without exception, Zhuo Xiangding was at an absolute disadvantage. Under Lu Changshang's sharp attacks, Zhuo Xiangding could only rely on the power of the gravity tower to bitterly hold on. Looking at Zhuo Xiangding, who was at a disadvantage from the start, Zhuowen took a deep breath. Then, he looked at the two runes on the back of his hands with a burning gaze. In fact, he also wanted to see the true power of the Holy Ice Fire rune. Kid, have you really decided? A somewhat helpless sigh sounded in his mind. It was the voice of Xiao He, who had gone silent. The situation has reached a critical juncture. I don't have time to think about anything else. Zhuowen said with a forced smile. In that case, you should be careful. After all, the Holy Ice Fire rune is not an ordinary item. Zhuowen nodded. Then the two runes on the back of his hands lit up. The ice rune on his right hand emitted an icy blue glow, while the fire rune on his left hand emitted a black-red glow. The moment the two runes lit up, two surges of energy shot into the sky from Zhuowen's left and right hands. His right hand was filled with endless icy cold energy, while his left hand was filled with raging black flames. The moment Zhuowen summoned these two types of energy, the yuan energy in the entire open space began to boil. Then, countless gazes were attracted by the strange situation. Chapter 153. Erupt. Ice Flame Holy Symbol. Zhuo Xiangding and Lu Changshang, who were originally engaged in an intense battle, paused for a moment due to the unusual situation on Zhuowen's side. The two of them turned their heads and looked over. They saw two strange symbols light up on the back of Zhuowen's hands. The one on his right contained an extremely dark ice fiendish aura, while the one on his left contained an extremely yang black flame. These two extreme energies basically filled the entire empty ground. At the same time, an energy ripple that caused one's heart to tremble swept out from these two extreme energies. This energy caused even Lu Changshang's heart to involuntarily tremble. The eyes of the young man in the empty ground hardened in front of the attention of tens of thousands of people. Immediately, the two extreme energies in his left and right hands slowly moved closer to each other in front of everyone's stunned gazes. Don't tell me that this little fellow is planning to merge these two extreme energies? A somewhat shocking thought suddenly sounded within everyone's hearts. The young man's hands finally slowly came together the moment this thought appeared. Crack! A couple of glaring sparks suddenly surged out from between the young man's hands. At the same time, a sound similar to countless number of firecrackers was emitted from the young man's hands. It continued to crackle. Is this little fellow crazy? Regardless of whether it was the somewhat stunned Lu Chengxiang or the surrounding onlookers, such a thought had appeared within their hearts at this moment. All of them had witnessed the might of the ice-fiendish cold qi and the nirvana demon flame that were emitted from Zhuowen's hands. It was not an overstatement to say that the strength of any one of these two energies was completely comparable to the full-force attack of a half-step to the illuminated king stage expert. Currently, if these two extremely frightening energies were to merge together, no one knew just how powerful the energy that was created would be. Moreover, forcefully merging these two extreme energies was likely to result in an intense explosion. If one was the slightest bit careless, it was likely that even Zhuowen himself would be completely destroyed by this frightening energy. Without a doubt, Zhuowen's current action was definitely a crazy act of seeking death, in the eyes of everyone. Even Zhuo Xiangding's eyes were filled with doubt. Even he did not expect that the trump card that Zhuowen had mentioned was actually this. Crackle. Under everyone's doubtful gazes, the two energies in Zhuowen's hands finally merged together at the instant his hands came together. Immediately, countless sparks flew out from his hands like meteors that cut through the void, following which densely packed muffled sounds of explosions continuously rang out from his hands. Bang! The moment the two energies fused, a gray ball with 5 colors flowing within it slowly appeared in Zhuowen's palms. However, this 5-colored ball of energy was very unstable at this time. It was actually constantly changing shape in his palms, as if there was a creature constantly struggling inside. The explosion that everyone thought would happen did not occur in the hands of the young man. Although the fluctuation of the 5-colored energy ball in his hands became increasingly intense, it did not show the slightest sign of exploding. It was as though there was a strange strength in the hands of the young man that was doing its best to control this cluster of extremely unstable energy ball and maintain its stability. Lu Chengxiang's eyes were just like an eagle's. His sharp gaze immediately locked onto the back of the young man's hands. Immediately, he saw 2 strange symbols flickering on the back of the young man's hands. As the symbols flickered, waves of strange energy were transmitted from the symbols into the 5-colored energy ball. Following the input of the strange energy from the symbols, the 5-colored energy ball maintained a kind of dynamic equilibrium. It did not explode as expected. Moreover, Lu Chengxiang was shocked to discover that while the symbol on the back of the young man's hand maintained the balance of the 5-colored energy ball, it was also repeatedly pouring in the ice-baleful cold qi and the nirvana demon flame into the 5-colored energy ball. Following the pouring in of these two extreme energies, the size of the 5-colored energy ball also began to swell at a frightening speed. A terrifying aura that was like that of a wild beast also surged out from the 5-colored energy ball. The appearance of this aura was like that of a mountain, pressuring quite a number of people until they could not breathe. What a powerful aura! Just what is the ball in Zhuowen's hands? Why does it possess such a terrifying aura? This aura is really too terrifying. It has basically far exceeded the range of the corporeal yang stage. Even when Lu Chengxiang uses the sky demon body, it is not as terrifying as this aura. Don't tell me that the strength of this small 5-colored energy ball has even exceeded that of an advanced human king stage expert? As the aura of the 5-colored energy ball in Zhuowen's hands became increasingly terrifying, the atmosphere in the open space also became strange. Countless gazes gathered on the 5-colored energy ball in Zhuowen's hands. Countless discussions also rose because of this. This symbol? Don't tell me that it is the legendary sacred symbol? Lu Chengxiang's eyes widened as he stared intently at the flickering symbol on the back of Zhuowen's hand. As if he had recognized something, his expression suddenly changed greatly. I can't let this kid continue. This is something that only exists in legends. Even this old man can't withstand it. Damn it, how could this little brat have such a thing? Lu Chengxiang was indeed an old monster who had lived for thousands of years. He was actually able to recognize the sacred symbol on the back of Zhuowen's hand. As soon as his voice fell, Lu Chengxiang's foot suddenly stomped on the ground. His entire body was so fast that it was dazzling to the eyes of the two people present. He rapidly rushed towards Zhuowen. Lu Chengxiang, your opponent is me. Don't even think about leaving. Zhuo Xiangding also saw the 5-colored energy ball in Zhuowen's hand. When he saw that the former could actually control the five-colored energy ball, Zhuoxiangding also let out a light sigh of relief. At this time, seeing that Lu Chengshang wanted to stop Zhuowen, Zhuoxiangding naturally stood in front of him. Zhuoxiangding, do you really think that this old man doesn't dare to kill you? Lu Chengshang's eyes suddenly turned red. He could clearly feel that the energy in the five-colored energy ball in Zhuowen's hand was increasing at a rapid speed. As the energy of the five-colored energy ball continued to increase, the sense of crisis in Lu Chengshang's heart became even stronger. I must stop this little brat. Those who stand in my way die. With a roar, Lu Chengshang's arm muscles violently squirmed. Soon after, countless black gas surrounded his arms. Raging Ghost Red Fist. A low roar came from his throat. Immediately, Lu Chengshang's right fist was like an indestructible iron fist. It fiercely slammed into the black tower in front of Zhuoxiangding. The powerful force even shook the air, creating rings of shockwaves. Boom! The instant his fist smashed into the black tower, a thunderous roar that sounded like 10,000 bolts of lightning instantly exploded in the open space. Immediately after, under the force of Lu Chengshang's fist, the gigantic black tower was violently smashed dozens of feet into the ground, leaving only a few feet of the tower's tip above the ground. Zhuoxiangding spat out a mouthful of blood from the impact of the fist. His whole body was like a withered leaf, fiercely falling to the ground, creating a deep pit beside the black tower. Zhuo family brat. Your luck is not bad, you actually have the legendary holy symbol. I think this holy symbol should be the greatest benefit you obtained from that expert's Cosmos sack. However, very soon this holy symbol will belong to me, Lu Chengshang. The only outcome for you is death. The moment Lu Chengshang defeated Zhuoxiangding in an instant, he was like an arrow released from a bow. He fiercely rushed towards the youth who was still controlling the five-colored energy ball not far away. The fear in his eyes slowly faded away, replaced by extreme greed. The holy symbol was a legendary treasure of heaven and earth. According to the legends, if a warrior obtained the holy symbol, he would definitely become the supreme saint of the entire continent, standing at the pinnacle of the entire continent. Thinking of the various legends of the holy symbol, the greed in Lu Chengshang's eyes became more and more intense. The gaze he used to look at Zhuowen was filled with cold killing intent. He knew that if he wanted to obtain the holy symbol, he had to kill the youth in front of him. Lu Chengshang, I'm afraid that the holy symbol will be a hot potato for you. When the time comes, you might even have to pay with your life. Just as Lu Chengshang was about to reach the youth suddenly raised his head, the corners of his mouth revealing a strange smile. Then, under Lu Chengshang's narrowed gaze, the youth spread out his hands, and a five-colored energy ball suddenly appeared in front of Lu Chengshang's eyes. An inexplicable sense of danger instantly filled Lu Chengshang's mind. Soon after, he was shocked to find that the youth's right hand was holding the five-colored energy ball, and he was lightly throwing it in his direction. The five-colored energy ball suddenly shot towards Lu Chengshang's location at a dazzling speed. Wherever it passed, the air would boil, and loud rumbling sounds would constantly resound in the air. It was as if even space itself was about to be torn apart by this energy. Ah! Lu Chengshang suddenly screamed, and his whole body twisted in a strange posture. Soon after, his forward momentum suddenly came to a halt. Then, the tip of his foot suddenly pushed off the ground, and his whole body retreated in the opposite direction. Even he didn't expect that Zhuowen would actually complete the construction of the five-colored energy ball at this time. Moreover, the instant he was about to approach, Zhuowen suddenly threw the five-colored energy ball out. However, Lu Chengshang's retreating speed was clearly slower than the five-colored energy ball. After retreating for a few dozen meters, the five-colored energy ball caught up with him. The instant the five-colored energy ball neared Lu Chengshang, the gray ball suddenly contracted, and then suddenly expanded. Then countless sparks burst out from the ball like a meteor shower. An uncontrollable explosion instantly exploded in the air. Boom. The destructive energy spread out from the air, and ripples appeared in the empty space. Not far away, a towering hill that reached into the clouds collapsed after the ripples spread out, turning into a deep pit. At the same time, at the instant the five-colored energy ball exploded, countless warriors on the open ground used their movement techniques, and after retreating extremely far away, They once again stopped and looked towards the open ground. The moment everyone left, the powerful energy ripples swept across the entire Wang family. In an instant, countless pavilions and towers in the Wang family were turned into dust by the energy ripples. Chapter 154. Shock and End. The multicolored energy ball exploded in the open space like a brilliant sun. Like a monstrous wave, it enveloped the entire open space. In an instant, the black flame waves and endless ice-blue cold air that soared into the sky interweaved into a dazzling gray energy pillar. The gray energy pillar was like a heavenly pillar that pierced through the sky. It soared into the sky and pierced a hole in the fog layer in the sky. In the entire Rattan Armor City, countless warriors were attracted by the gray energy pillar that soared into the sky. When they felt the enormous power of the energy pillar that pierced through the sky, everyone's eyes became dull. A complicated mix of extreme cold and extreme heat instantly filled the entire Rattan Armor City. It was as if Rattan Armor City had sunk into a purgatory of ice and fire. Some people were sweating profusely from the extreme heat, while others were shivering from the extreme cold. This power is so strong. When did such a powerful warrior appear in our Rattan Armor City? Far away from the Wang family, many cultivators raised their heads and stared at the gray energy pillar that shot into the sky. Their eyes were filled with indescribable shock. They could feel the enormous energy contained in the energy pillar that could destroy the world. Go. Let's go and take a look. No one knew who said this, but the countless ancient martial art practitioners in Rattan Armor City all used their movement techniques and rushed towards the energy pillars. The densely packed figures were like locusts passing by as they approached the location of the energy pillars. When these cultivators arrived at their destination, they also discovered that the location of the energy pillar was actually where the Wang family was located. At this moment, a considerable number of cultivators had already gathered outside the Wang family. It's actually the Wang family. Could it be that the expert who created such a huge commotion is actually from the Wang family? The warriors who hurried over also recognized that this was the territory of the Wang family. A strange expression appeared on their faces, and at the same time, their eyes were filled with intense fear. If the Wang family really had such a strong person, perhaps the entire Rattan Armor City would become unstable. After all, the Wang family was famous for being overbearing in the entire Rattan Armor City. However, when these warriors who hurried over saw the Wang family's residence through the gaps in the crowd in front of them, their pupils suddenly shrank, and they could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. This was because what appeared in front of them now was no longer the huge and prosperous residence of the past. Instead, it was merely a wasteland of broken walls and tiles. The Wang family's encampment, which was nearly 100 miles in radius, had been completely turned into ruins. There was not a single complete building to be found. There were only some broken bricks and broken pillars, as if it was a sign that this used to be a bustling mansion. The Wang family has actually been annihilated? The Rattan Armor City, and Rattan Armor City, the Armor City, the Wang family clan residence, the Rattan Armor City, Rattan Armor City, Rattan Armor City, Rattan Armor City, as Rattan clan Wang, and Wang clan Wang, Wang Rattan Studio World Atlas NN World Studio Regardless of whether it was in terms of high-end strength or overall strength, the Wang family was considered to be a huge force that was difficult to deal with. However, the huge force in the eyes of these Rattan Armor City cultivators had now become so weak. Who exactly reduced the Wang family to such a state? As their shock slowly faded, the minds of these Rattan Armor City cultivators were also filled with doubts. Just as these Rattan Armor City cultivators were guessing, the gray energy pillar that soared into the sky above the wasteland finally dissipated under everyone's gazes. Thump, thump, thump. The moment the gray energy pillar dissipated, footsteps that sounded like the beating of a heart slowly reverberated throughout the entire space. Immediately after, a faintly discernible figure quietly walked out from the gray darkness. When this figure finally appeared in front of everyone, everyone's eyes widened. This was because the owner of this figure was actually a young man who was only 15 or 16 years old. The young man's body was tall and slender, as tall and straight as a pine tree. However, at this moment, the young man's face was as pale as snow. His hands were actually covered with terrifying scars, and traces of cherry-red blood slowly flowed out from the scars. It was a demonic and gorgeous sight in the entire empty space. Thump, thump, thump. The moment the young man stepped out, he waved his right hand and the three figures landed heavily on the ground like falling rocks. The muffled sound reverberated through the entire open space like a great bell, emitting a sound that shook people's hearts. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground rang out, countless gazes gathered on the three figures below the young man's feet. When these gazes finally saw the true faces of the three figures, they could not help but inhale a breath of cold air. This was because among these three figures, two of them were actually familiar to them. The Chen family's head, Chen Sheng, and the Wang family's head, Wang Yuanxing. Both of their faces were pale and bloodless, and even their bodies did not have any aura to speak of. It was obvious that they were completely dead. Chen Sheng and Wang Yuanxing are both dead. Gazing at the two corpses lying at the young man's feet, everyone suddenly felt a sense of dizziness in their heads. They had never imagined that the heads of the Chen family and Wang family, two of the three great families of Rattan Armor City, would actually die at the same time. It should be known that Chen Sheng and Wang Yuanxing could be ranked among the top experts in Rattan Armor City. Chen Sheng's cultivation was half a step into the Zhao King realm, and Wang Yuanxing had broken through to the Zhao King realm. In Rattan Armor City, their strength was only below Gu Yutian and Gu Lai. However, even with such powerful strength they were still killed. This unexpected outcome immediately caused many ancient martial art practitioners to think that they were hallucinating. However, very quickly, these ancient martial art practitioners' gazes once again gathered on the young man. After observing for a long time, someone finally recognized that this young man was actually Zhuowen, who had been in the limelight recently in Rattan Armor City. Could it be that Chen Sheng and Wang Yuanxing were both killed by Zhuowen? Suddenly, a somewhat inconceivable thought filled everyone's minds. Immediately, these people's gazes towards Zhuowen suddenly became somewhat inexplicably shocked. Everyone still remembered that although the young man in front of them had been in the limelight during the battle in the market half a year ago, his strength was only around the Yin Void realm. He had not even reached the corporeal Yang realm. However, after half a year, he could actually kill an ancient martial art practitioner of the Zhao King realm by himself. Although Wang Yuanxing's realm was the lowest in the Zhao King realm, and was only around the initial human king realm, with such strength, even an ancient martial art practitioner of the Zhao King realm might not necessarily be able to kill him. The Wang family and the Chen family are finished. The Zhuo family is truly going to rise. Looking at the young man covered in blood on the open ground, everyone could not help but tremble in their hearts. They knew that the Zhuo family had produced such a monstrous figure. The rise of the Zhuo family would be unstoppable. Unlike the complicated feelings of the warriors who had arrived late, the forces that had been invited by the Wang family from the beginning were all stunned in place. They were at the front of the open ground, but their gazes were not on Chen Sheng and Wang Yuanxing. Instead, they were more concerned with the other withered corpse. This corpse was very strange. Its entire body was pitch black, as if it had been poisoned. Moreover, there was almost no flesh on its body, as if it was just skin and bones. Now, it was not conspicuous among the three corpses. Some of the warriors who had arrived late simply ignored this corpse. Instead, they paid more attention to the corpses of Chen Sheng and Wang Yuanxing. They thought that Lu Chengshang's corpse was an insignificant person. However, these forces knew that Lu Chengshang's strength was the strongest among the three, especially after he used the celestial devil body. His strength had almost reached the exceptional human king realm, far surpassing that of Chen Sheng and Wang Yuanxing. Originally, these forces had thought that the final victor would be Lu Chengshang. However, the reality in front of them was that Lu Chengshang had turned into a corpse, while Zhuowen was still standing in place. On the open ground, Zhuowen stared at the three corpses at his feet and sighed softly. Zhuowen was also surprised by the power of the holy symbol of ice fire. Even an expert like Lu Chengshang could not resist such power. However, after letting out a light sigh, a heavy sense of fatigue assaulted his heart. His footsteps staggered, and Zhuowen actually fell back involuntarily. It seems that the price of using the holy symbol of ice fire is really high. Now the yuan power in my body is almost exhausted, and the muscles all over my body are broken in many places. I can't exert any strength at all. With a bitter smile, Zhuowen slowly fell back. However, the moment he fell, a strong black shadow suddenly rushed over from afar and caught Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen, you did well. I really did not expect that you would be able to kill Lu Qingshang in the end. You are indeed the son of the third brother, huh? Narrowing his eyes, Zhuowen looked at the white-haired old man in front of him and said with a smile, "Grandfather, if it was not for you, I am afraid that even I would not have been able to defeat Lu Qingshang. Let's not talk about this now. Your injuries are very serious. You need to quickly go back and recuperate. Otherwise, there will be hidden dangers in the future. Grandfather will take you home now." Zhuo Xiangding gently channeled yuan power into Zhuowen's body. Then, he supported Zhuowen and gathered the people of the Zhuo family to leave the ruins of the Wang family. This time, the Zhuo family did not lose much. Although the two important figures, Zhuo Baitian and Zhuo Dingtian, were seriously injured, it was not a big deal. Before the Zhuo family left, they naturally looted some of the undamaged areas of the Wang family. Watching the Zhuo family leave, the other forces outside the open space did not dare to make the slightest move. Although the important figures of the Zhuo family seemed to be seriously injured, the shocking strength of the Zhuo family had already shocked all the warriors present. The Chun family, the Wang family, and an expert in the advanced human king realm could not defeat the Zhuo family. It seems that the rise of the Zhuo family is unstoppable. Chapter 155. To have a great reputation, the battle between the three great families finally came to an end with the deaths of Lu Changshang and Wang Yuanxing. At the moment of their deaths, everyone knew that even though the Wang and Chen families were well prepared, not only were they unable to defeat the Zhuo family, but they had also paid a huge price under the retaliation of the Zhuo family. And the price for this was the eternal decline of the two great families. Having lost their pillars of support, the status of the Wang and Chen families in Rotten Armor City would rapidly decline. It would be impossible for them to regain their former glory. This time, the conflict led by the Wang family had caused the Zhuo family's reputation to soar. No one dared to look down on this previously low-profile family anymore. Aside from the Zhuo family's reputation, there was also one person who became the talk of the town. This person was the Zhuo family's younger generation member, Zhuowen. This young man who had single-handedly killed the leaders of the Chen and Wang families had now become the idol of all the young warriors in Vine Armor City. After defeating the Chen and Wang families, the Zhuo family also took over the two families' businesses. The Zhuo family could be considered to be at the peak of Rotten Armor City. Without the suppression and threat of the Wang and Chen families, the Zhuo family was fully deserving of being the number one family in Rotten Armor City. With such fame, it attracted many experts to join the Zhuo family. The addition of these experts made the Zhuo family quite happy. After all, the Zhuo family had suffered a great loss in the battle with the Wang and Chen families. Now was the time to recruit more people. With the continuous addition of warriors, the strength of the Zhuo family also soared like never before. While Zhuo Xiangding and the others were busy cleaning up the aftermath of the battle, Zhuowen had returned to the Hidden Dragon Pavilion's training room and was quietly recuperating. Zhuowen's injuries were quite serious, and they were almost all caused by the backlash of the Icefire holy symbol. However, with the nourishment of the countless pills in his Qiankuan bag and the undying essence in his body, his injuries were gradually recovering at an astonishing speed. Ever since that battle, Zhuowen's identity as a rank 2 Arcana Master had been exposed. Coupled with his glorious achievements in the battle, his status in the Zhuo family had reached an extremely high level. Even Zhuo Xiangding would speak to his grandson with a kind and proud expression. Within the Hidden Dragon Pavilion's technique training room, Zhuowen sat cross-legged quietly as strands of origin energy surged into his body like a tide before finally converging into his dantian, completely enriching it. As he cultivated his origin energy, the Icefire holy symbol on the back of Zhuowen's hands constantly emitted a faint light in the dim room. As the symbol's surface flickered, The origin energy in Zhuowen's dantian and spiritual power in his Naiwen palace actually beat like a heart. The beating sound was extremely rhythmic, and with this beating sound, the origin energy in Zhuowen's dantian and spiritual power in his Naiwen palace actually increased at an astonishing speed. During this cultivation, Zhuowen truly felt the enormous benefits that the Icefire holy symbol brought to him. Without mentioning the holy symbol's powerful destructive power, just the ability to continuously absorb origin energy from the outside world and use it to nourish one's own origin energy and spiritual power was already an extremely heaven-defying existence. In other words, even if Zhuowen didn't focus on cultivation, with the Icefire holy symbol, the origin energy and spiritual power in Zhuowen's body would still increase by quite a bit. This kind of growth was ongoing at every moment. This was just like when Zhuowen was on Earth in his previous life playing games with a plug-in. Even if the player wasn't playing the computer, the character's experience in the game would still increase at every moment. No wonder it's said in the legends that once a warrior obtains a holy symbol, he can almost become a saint. With the holy symbol's heaven-defying effect, as long as his aptitude isn't too bad, he can almost climb to the peak. Zhuowen exhaled softly and slowly opened his eyes. His gaze focused on the runes on the back of his hands as he spoke with some pleasant surprise. Kid, you also felt the benefits that the holy symbol brought to you, right? Back then, this dragon lord let you obtain the holy symbol. It was all for you. Xiaohei appeared on Zhuowen's shoulder at some point in time. He crossed his paws and sat on Zhuowen's shoulder as he chuckled. Zhuowen rolled his eyes. Xiaohei's skin was really thick. He was obviously trying to recover his origin, but now he was saying it in such a dignified manner. This made Zhuowen a little speechless. However, the benefits that the Icefire holy symbol brought to Zhuowen did indeed make him quite satisfied. Zhuowen was actually quite grateful to the somewhat arrogant Xiaohei. With the Icefire holy symbol, your origin should be able to recover very quickly. Zhuowen glanced at Xiaohei and chuckled. The holy symbol does have some indescribable benefits for the stabilization and recovery of the soul. However, the Icefire holy symbol on your body is only a trace of origin. The effect isn't as good as expected. If I had the complete Icefire holy symbol, I'm afraid that this Dragon Lord's origin would be able to recover by more than half. Xiaohei pursed his lips and shrugged helplessly as he spoke. It was obvious that he had some complaints about the fact that the Icefire holy symbol was only a trace of origin. The complete Icefire holy symbol. According to the remnant image in the Icefire holy symbol, if I want to obtain the complete Icefire holy symbol, then I have to pass through the first 8 levels of the Icefire Dual Hall of Divine Academy. It seems that I have to gather some information about Divine Academy. Zhuowen muttered to himself. I think that cheap master of yours might know a little. After all, he is a grade 3 Arcana master. His experience should be much richer than a young brat like you. Xiaohei rubbed his chin with his little paws as he spoke indifferently. Zhuowen's eyes lit up when he heard this. It seemed that he could only ask Grandmaster Kuraki for help. However, Master Kuraki and City Lord Gu Yutian should still be in the prefecture capital. I heard from Grandfather that they have gone to participate in a grand event and will only be back in about a month. Now I have to wait for them to come back before I can go and ask them. It just so happens that I can use this 1 month to break through my current realm. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. His cultivation had already reached level 8 of the Yin Void realm. However, after the battle with the Wang family, Zhuowen had gained some insights and the origin energy in his body had increased a lot. Now, with the Icefire holy symbol's incredible effect, Zhuowen could feel that he was about to break through again. It seems that the progress is a little slow. Zhuowen shook his head helplessly. Then, he sat down cross-legged and began his boring meditation. However, if Zhuo Xiangding and the others heard what Zhuowen said, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. It should be known that Zhuowen had just broken through to level 8 of the Yin Void realm. Now that he was about to break through again, how could he say that the progress was too slow? In the dimly lit hall of the governor's mansion, a burly figure sat quietly on the main seat. The atmosphere was a little strange. In the middle of the hall, a black-clothed man knelt on the ground and said respectfully, Lord Gu Lai, the Wang family and the Chun family are finished. The Wang family and the Chun family joined forces, But they were still no match for the Zhou family? I remember that Wang Yuanxing has already reached the initial human king realm. This kind of strength should be considered the top power in Rattan Armor City. The burly figure slowly stood up from the main seat. Under a ray of light, a resolute and upright face was revealed. This person was Gu Lai, who had some conflicts with Zhuowen. At the same time, he was also the second most powerful expert in the governor's mansion. At this moment, Gu Lai's face showed a hint of surprise. He did not expect that the Wang family and the Chun family would still be no match for the Zhou family. I heard that the head of the Zhou family, Zhou Xiangding, has also reached the initial human king realm. Moreover, he has a medium-level spiritual treasure. The black-clothed man lowered his head slightly and said respectfully, "Medium-level spiritual treasure? I did not expect the Zhou family to be so well hidden. They actually have a medium-level spiritual treasure. This is really unexpected. However, I remember that Wang Yuanxing has a backup plan. I heard that Lu Chengshang of Luchuan town is working with him. That old bastard Lu Chengshang's cultivation has reached the initial human king realm. Even if Zhou Xiangding has a medium-level spiritual treasure, he is still no match for two human king realm warriors." Gu Lai's eyes flickered. However, there was a hint of doubt in his tone. "It is indeed as you have said. However, there was an unforeseen event midway. That is, Zhuowen of the Zhou family appeared in the end. As soon as he appeared, he killed Chan Shang of the Chan family. At the same time, he challenged Wang Yuanxing alone and caused Wang Yuanxing's death. In the end, he joined forces with Zhou Xiangding and forcefully combined the energy of ice and fire to create a powerful energy ball that killed Lu Chengshang." When the black-clothed man said this, his breathing quickened. Obviously, even he was shocked by Zhuowen's achievements. "Zhuowen? You are saying that Chan Shang, who is half a step to the King Zhao realm, and Wang Yuanxing and Lu Chengshang, who are both in the King Zhao realm, were all killed by Zhuowen?" Crack! Gu Lai's hands trembled slightly. He suddenly crushed the teacup in his hand. His pupils shrank to the size of needles as he spoke in disbelief. "Sir, this is absolutely true. The little guy was at the scene at that time. Moreover, the gray energy pillar that shot into the sky yesterday was created by Zhuowen. He used this move to kill Lu Chengshang. Moreover, Zhuowen's mental energy has reached the second level." When the black-clothed man saw that Gu Lai was showing signs of anger, his entire body trembled violently. However, he still did not change his words. Gu Lai frowned slightly as he looked deeply at the black-clothed man. He muttered to himself for a moment before he finally sighed and said, "I really did not expect that Zhuowen could develop to such an extent in such a short period of time. This speed is simply monstrous. It is really unwise to go against this kid now. Help me issue an order. In the future, you are not allowed to go against the Zhou family. Also, prepare a gift tomorrow and send it to the Zhou family as a token of our appreciation." After dismissing the black-clothed person, Gu Lai suddenly stared blankly at the top of the hall. His mind once again recalled the unyielding and tenacious expression on the young man's face during the battle in the market. At that moment, he had faintly guessed that this child was definitely not someone to be trifled with. Chapter 156. Chenglong. Time flew by. A month passed in the blink of an eye. Inside the training room of the Hidden Dragon Pavilion, a ray of warm sunlight shone through the gaps between the windows. A tall and straight figure appeared tranquil and serene under the illumination of the light. Right at this moment, the young man's eyes suddenly opened wide, and then a strand of bright light surged out explosively from his eyes. Creak! Suddenly, the young man stood up. The muscles all over his body were like countless worms at this moment, squirming continuously. At the same time, a clear sound of bones dislocating sounded. Raising his head to the sky, he howled. A surging aura instantly burst forth from the youth's body. The surrounding yuan qi transformed into a violent and powerful hurricane that swept out in all directions. Rumble! A muffled thunder-like sound was emitted from the young man's body. Soon after, the aura within the young man's body soared to the extreme. When this aura reached its peak, an invisible air wave rose within the room, causing the tables, chairs, and other furniture in the room to fall into disarray. The 9th level of the Void realm? But with this kid's character, I'm afraid he won't stop at just advancing to this stage. A Xiaohei dog said thoughtfully as it hovered in midair. Its narrow black eyes stared quietly at the young man in front of it. As soon as Xiaohei finished speaking, the young man in front of her patted his Qingquan bag with his right hand. Then, he took out 10 medicinal pills with great medicinal strength. With a clench of his hand, the medicinal pill was instantly crushed. An endless amount of medicinal energy formed a layer of misty fog around the young man. Subsequently, the young man's chest contracted and tightened as he inhaled all the surrounding medicinal energy into his mouth in one breath. The Tyrant Blood Qingquan bag contained a terrifying amount of elixirs. Therefore, Zhuowen had no shortage of elixirs. It could be said that he could use as many elixirs as he wanted. As the young man inhaled the medicinal power, his aura rose again. However, when his aura reached the peak of the 9th level of the Void realm, it was as slow as a tortoise. The young man seemed to have noticed this phenomenon. He took out 10 more elixirs from his Qingquan bag and crushed them all. Similarly, he absorbed all of the medicinal power. With the support of the medicinal power, the stagnant aura in the young man's body moved again. It immediately broke through the peak of the 9th level of the Void realm and reached the half-step to the Yang realm. However, after reaching this stage, the young man's aura time stopped moving. The young man narrowed his eyes. He knew that he could only reach the half-step corporeal Yang stage. If he wanted to reach the corporeal Yang stage, he needed to have a certain level of comprehension. After all, Zhuowen had only cultivated for a short period of time, so his comprehension was naturally not deep enough. At his age, he was already considered a monster to have reached the half-step to corporeal Yang realm. It seems that I can't break through the shackles of the Void stage and reach the Yang corporeal stage. Of the Void realm. Boy, your progress is too fast. I remember that it took you less than half a year to reach the half-step Yang corporeal realm from the beginning of the Void realm. TSK. With this kind of speed, even those top geniuses wouldn't be too far off. Martial arts are also afraid of your impatience. It's better to take it slow. Blackie crossed its paws in front of its chest and sneered with a hint of mockery. Faced with Xiaohei's mockery, Zhuowen scratched his head awkwardly. Xiaohei's words made sense. He was indeed too greedy. Now that he thought about it, his progress in martial arts had left many of his peers far behind. Now that he had the Icefire holy symbol, his true strength could be ranked among the top in Rattan Armor City. Boy, the backlash that the Icefire holy symbol has on you is a little large. After all, regardless of whether it is the Nirvana Demon Flame or the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye Cold Aura, these two kinds of energy are both man-grade energies. Once the two are merged, the 5-colored energy ball that is created will reach the Earth-grade level. That level is already comparable to the attack of a Zhao King stage expert. That level of energy is not something you can withstand now. The best way now is to not casually use the Icefire holy symbol to combine the Nirvana Demon Flame and the Heaven Fiend Dark Eyes Cold Air. However, if you use a lower-level common-grade Icefire energy, the backlash will be much smaller. Xiaohei rubbed her chin and said cautiously, "Common-grade Icefire energy?" Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he muttered to himself, "Yes, if two types of common-grade Icefire energy are combined, the 5-colored energy ball created should reach the human grade. An ordinary corporeal Yang realm expert would find it difficult to resist the power of a human-grade 5-colored energy ball." Xiaohei nodded. The cold air under Tianju Cliff should have the strength of a common grade. If you can find a common grade flame energy, you can use these two types of low-level energy to practice the secret of the Icefire holy symbol's fusion. Zhuowen nodded. The world was fair. If one wanted to obtain great strength, one must pay a corresponding price. The Icefire holy symbol in Zhuowen's hand was a double-edged sword. If he wanted to completely control the holy symbol, he would need quite a lot of time. Let's not talk about this for now. Now that a month has passed, it is likely that the City Lord and Master Tsangmu should be back. Moreover, the time for the Yuan Energy Towers competition should be arriving soon. Zhuowen slowly stood up. His gaze passed through the window and directly looked in the direction of the City Lord's mansion. In the sky above, There was a huge black shadow that was rapidly approaching Rattan Armor City. Swoosh! The loud sound of something breaking through the air instantly rang out in Rattan Armor City. Rattan Armor City also darkened because of this. Everyone couldn't help but raise their heads to look at the sky. They were shocked to discover that a huge ark had unknowingly appeared above them. The ark was dozens of feet in size. It was richly decorated and glittered with jewels. At the front of the ark was a huge dragon's head. The dragon's head looked very lifelike. Those huge dragon's eyes seemed to be able to pierce through everything. Once the ark appeared above Rattan Armor City, an extremely powerful aura instantly filled the entire city. It was like a mountain, pressuring many warriors to the point that they couldn't breathe. That is, Zhuowen's gaze narrowed. His figure flashed and disappeared from the training room. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in the Zhuo family courtyard. At this moment, the Zhuo family courtyard was densely packed with warriors. Among them were Zhuowen's grandfather, Zhuo Xiangding, first uncle Zhuo Baitian, second uncle Zhuo Dingtian, and other important members of the Zhuo family. At this moment, almost all of them were gathered in the Zhuo family courtyard. Zhuowen's appearance instantly caused a commotion in the courtyard. Everyone's gazes were fixed on the youth who had just appeared. Their gazes were filled with crazed passion. Ever since he had made a name for himself in the battle with the Wang family, Zhuowen's reputation in the Zhuo family had even surpassed that of Zhuo Xiangding, the head of the Zhuo family. Everyone in the Zhuo family knew that the youth in front of them, who still looked a little immature, had an enormous amount of power in his body. Even someone as strong as Chen Sheng, who was half a step into the Zhao King realm, and Wang Yuanxing, who was already at the Zhao King realm, had fallen at the hands of this youth in front of them. Zhuo Xiangding also saw Zhuowen at a glance. His eyes instantly lit up. With a hearty laugh, he strode towards Zhuowen. "Grandfather, what is that ark that appeared in the sky?" Zhuowen pointed at the ark in the sky and asked curiously. Patting Zhuowen's shoulder, Zhuo Xiangding frowned slightly and said, "If this old man's guess is correct, the ark in the sky should be the Chenglong." Chenglong? Zhuowen became even more confused. "Zhuowen, it's normal that you don't know about it. Actually, this Chenglong is a high-grade spiritual treasure. It is the exclusive mount of the House of Marquis Qin in Muqin County. Its speed is extremely fast, and it can travel hundreds of thousands of miles in the blink of an eye. It is a top-grade flying spiritual treasure that is most suitable for long-distance travel." Zhuo Baitian, who was behind him, suddenly opened his mouth and patiently explained to Zhuowen. However, his eyes were filled with deep envy. High-grade spiritual treasure? Someone from the house of Marquis Qin? Zhuowen was startled, but his eyes soon revealed a trace of surprise. Wasn't the Marquis of Muqin the ruler of the entire Muqin County? That was a supreme expert who controlled an entire county. His strength had even surpassed the ultimate emperor realm and reached the fourth revered emperor realm. Zhuowen did not expect that someone from the house of Marquis Qin would come to a small, remote city like Rattan Armor City. This was somewhat abnormal. "Grandfather, do you know why someone from the house of Marquis Qin would come to our small Rattan Armor City? After all, our Rattan Armor City is only an insignificant, low-grade city." Looking at Zhuo Xiangding, who was frowning in front of him, Zhuowen asked curiously, "I'm not sure either. However, I'm afraid that Rattan Armor City will become very lively soon. Let's go take a look first." The windy ship seems to have stopped above the governor's mansion. I can feel the auras of Master Tsangmu and Lord Guchang from there. These two lords should be on the windy ship as well. Zhuo Xiangding shook his head helplessly. Then, he brought a few important people with him and flew towards the governor's mansion. Zhuowen's eyes flashed. He also used his movement technique and followed closely behind Zhuo Xiangding and the others. Apart from the Zhuo family, many other factions in Rattan Armor City had similar thoughts as Zhuo Xiangding. They all brought their trusted subordinates and headed towards the governor's mansion. Inside the Wind Rider, on the incomparably huge deck, a young girl in a green dress with bright eyes and white teeth, her eyes like water and skin like snow, silently stood at the very front of the deck. A trace of craftiness flashed across her watery eyes. Behind the young girl stood an old man in his 70s with a head full of silver hair, and a young man in blue robes with a folding fan in his hand. The old man in the long robes gave off a faint sense of oppression. The aura he gave off was even stronger than Gu Yutian's. Clearly, this old man was either a heavenly king or an ultimate emperor realm expert. Behind them were the respectful Gu Yutian and Master Tsang Mu. The two of them did not have their usual arrogance. Instead, they were much more humble. Master Tsang Mu, I heard that a new Arcana Master has appeared in your little Rattan armor city. I also heard that it's a 15 or 16-year-old youth. Looks like your Rattan armor city is really a place of good feng shui. Such a rare Arcana Master has appeared in your Rattan armor city. The young girl in the green dress looked around and stopped at Master Tsang Mu, who had his head lowered. Her bell-like laughter rang out, but her eyes were filled with curiosity. Chapter 157. From the county capital. When Master Kuraki heard the girl mention Zhuowen, he was stunned at first. Then, a kind and proud expression appeared on his face. He bowed respectfully and said with a smile, "Ninth Commandery Princess, thank you for your praise. Zhuowen does have the talent to be an arcanist. His talent is much higher than mine." Zhuowen? So that little fellow is called Zhuowen. This princess did not expect that your disciple's talent is actually higher than your master's. Doesn't that mean that your disciple should be able to become a 4th-rank Arcana Master if nothing unexpected happens? According to Master Kuraki, the girl in the green dress was actually a Commandery Princess, which meant that the girl in the green dress should be the biological daughter of Marquis Muqin. Such an identity was extremely prominent in the Commandery capital. It was unexpected that the 9th Commandery Princess would come to a small place like Rattan Armor City. The eyes of the blue-clothed young man and the old man behind her narrowed slightly when they heard the green-dressed young lady's words. With their status, they naturally did not care about a rank 3 Arcana Master. However, if it was a rank 4 Arcana Master, even they did not dare to slight him. I say, Kuraki, are you sure that your disciple's talent is above yours? You should know that it's already quite inconceivable for a grade 3 Arcana Master like you to appear in Vine Armor City. If a grade 4 Arcana Master appears, your Vine Armor City will probably directly become a mid-tier city. The old man with a head full of silver hair gently stroked his white beard as he stared at Tsang Mu behind him. His tone was filled with a strong interrogative tone. Master Kuraki's expression froze and his face turned red. Although he was angry at the old man's questioning, he did not dare to refute, because the seemingly ordinary silver-haired old man in front of him was a genuine peak Heavenly King powerhouse. If he had a sudden epiphany, he might be able to directly advance to the ultimate Emperor realm. Gu Yutian's strength was only at the Earth King realm, which was one level lower than the old man in front of him. Moreover, this old man was the personal bodyguard of the 9th Commandery Princess and was responsible for her personal safety. With such a status, even Tsang Mu did not dare to offend him. The atmosphere suddenly became a little strange. Gu Yutian, who had been silent all this time, glanced at Tsang Mu, who was beside him, and sighed softly. He then smiled and said, "Master Lingju, you don't know. Zhuowen's spiritual force, Master Kuraki's spiritual power, is advanced. Spiritual power's talent is indeed not weak." Once Gu Yutian's words left his mouth, the entire place froze for a moment. Even the old man named Lingju's expression could not help but turn sluggish. His hand that was stroking his beard even paused for a moment. Spiritual master spiritual power? Is this true? Lingju's eyes lit up as he looked at Gu Yutian and asked seriously. Even the blue-clothed young man, who had been acting like he did not care, could not help but pause his right hand that was holding a folding fan. He also stared at Gu Yutian. On the other hand, the 9th Commandery Princess's beautiful eyes were full of interest. Even she did not expect that in such a remote place like Rattan Armor City, there would be a genius with a high level of mental energy talent. It was rare to see such a genius even in Muqin Commandery. Gu Yutian lowered his head slightly and said softly, "This is true. After all, Tsang Mu personally tested him. There shouldn't be any mistake." Haha, if it's really like what you said, then this kind of genius can't be buried. Such a talent should be brought to the Arcane Guild in the county capital to develop. Otherwise, if he stays in Rattan Armor City, wouldn't it be a waste of his talent? Lingju's eyes softened. If Zhuowen's spiritual power was advanced spiritual power as Guyu Tian said, then such a genius must be given the best resources. And such a place naturally belonged to none other than the Arcane Guild. I have the same idea. However, Zhuowen's cultivation time is too short. It hasn't even been a year, so his spiritual power may not have reached level 1. That's why I didn't bring him to the Arcane Guild. Once this kid's spiritual power reaches level 1, I will bring him to the Arcane Guild for a series of tests to register the mark of an Arcanist. Seeing the change in attitude of Lingju and the others, Songmu's mood improved. At the same time, his heart was filled with pride. After all, he was lucky enough to have such a talented disciple as a level 3 Arcanist. Oh, not level 1 yet? You're right. It's more appropriate to send this kid to the Arcane Guild after his spiritual power reaches level 1. When Lingju heard this, the glow in his eyes slowly faded away. Although his mental energy talent was indeed very high, since he had not even reached the first grade, it was not that amazing. At the very most, it would only make people gasp in amazement. After all, he had seen many talented geniuses fall in the middle of their cultivation. The shock on the face of the youth in blue disappeared. Only the corner of his mouth twitched, and his face showed a look of indifference again. His thoughts were similar to Lingju's. After all, no matter how talented a genius was, if he did not grow up, then everything would be in vain. At the same time, the interest in the 9th Commandery Princess's beautiful eyes had also faded a little. Grandmaster Karaki saw the changes in the expressions of the 3 people in front of him. Although he felt a little uncomfortable in his heart, the 3 people in front of him were after all above him in terms of status and strength. He did not dare to make irresponsible remarks in front of them. Therefore, he could only swallow this frustration into his stomach. Bang! A slight vibration slowly came from the entire arc. Soon after, the arc began to slowly descend, and very quickly, it landed on the ground. Looks like we have arrived at Rattan Armor City. Let's go down too. Lingju indifferently gazed at the countless human figures gathered outside the arc. With a wave of his hand, he unleashed a surge of yuan power. Immediately, the gigantic wind rider beneath his feet shrunk at an astonishing speed. Finally, it transformed into a palm-sized boat that sat in his palm. The place where Lingju and the rest landed was the Godstone Square of Rattan Armor City. Due to the landing of the windy arc, almost all the ancient martial art practitioners of Rattan Armor City had gathered in the square. These ancient martial art practitioners all stared strangely at the few people who had suddenly appeared. However, when they realized that among the few people who had suddenly appeared, there was actually City Lord Guyu Tian and Master Tsangmu, it immediately caused an uproar. What made them even more surprised was that Guyu Tian and Master Tsangmu seemed to be very respectful towards the 3 people standing in front of them. Everyone knew that the 3 people who had appeared in the square were probably of high status. Otherwise, City Lord Guyu Tian and the Grade 3 Arcana Master Tsangmu would not be so respectful towards the 3 people. At the end of the Divine Stone Plaza, the muscular Gu Lai had already led a group of people to wait for a long time. When he saw Guyu Tian and the rest, his eyes immediately glowed. With a few large strides, he led the group behind him and arrived in front of Guyu Tian. Before he knelt down on one knee and bowed, Gu Lai welcomes the return of the City Lord. Guyu Tian gently helped Gu Lai up. Soon after, he pointed his right hand at Lingju and the other 2 people in front of him and said, "These 3 are all important people from the province. The girl in the green dress is the 9th daughter of Mu Qin Marquis, the 9th princess. That young man is the 2nd son of Marquis Bai Chuan Su Chang. The last one is the captain of the guards of the house of Marquis Qin. They are all extremely important." When Gu Lai heard this, his body trembled. The gaze he used to look at Lingju and the other 2 immediately became respectful. He did not think that the 3 people's identities would be so extraordinary. Marquis Mu Qin was the ruler of the entire Muqin County. It could be said that he was the strongest person in the county. It was said that his strength had reached the level of the 4th sovereign. Marquis Bai Chuan was also a Marquis-level expert in Muqin County. Although he was not as strong as Marquis Mu Qin, He had also reached the level of the ultimate emperor stage. He was quite famous in the entire Muqin County. Among the 3 people in front of him, 2 of them were actually the direct descendants of Muqin Marquis and Baichuan Marquis. The other person even possessed quite a high status within Muqin Marquis estate. Such a noble status was something that even Gu Lai would have a hard time meeting. However, now that he had met all 3 of them at once, it caused Gu Lai's heart to feel a little weak. Gu Yutian found it a little funny as he stared at the slightly weak Gu Lai in front of him. This was the first time he had seen the fearless Gu Lai reveal such a weak expression today. Gu Lai, nothing major should have happened in Rotten Armor City during the month that I was gone, right? Gu Yutian patted Gu Lai's shoulder and asked with a smile. When Gu Lai heard this, a trace of hesitation immediately appeared on his face. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, Governor, the Wang and Chan clans have been destroyed while you were gone. Gu Yutian had originally only asked casually. In his opinion, it was impossible for too many major events to have happened in Rotten Armor City in the short span of a month. However, when he heard this, he was immediately stunned. He dug his ears and asked again, What did you say? The Wang and Cheng clans have been destroyed? Who did it? Gu Yutian's voice also attracted the attention of Lingju and the others. The 3 of them did not know the Wang and Cheng clans, so they did not think too much about the destruction of these 2 clans. However, Master Kuraki's expression suddenly changed. The Wang and Cheng clans were the 3 great clans of Rotten Armor City. Which faction in Rotten Armor City had the power to destroy these 2 clans at the same time? It was the Zhuo family. Gu Lai hesitated again and again, but still spoke the truth in the end. The Zhuo family? That's impossible. The Zhuo family's strength is ranked at the bottom among the 3 great clans. How could they destroy the Wang and Cheng clans? Moreover, didn't Wang Yuanqing break through to the initial human king realm a month ago? With such strength, could it be that the Zhuo family has someone who can match him? Gu Yutian's expression became even more confused. However, Gu Lai's following words truly shocked the governor. Governor, the Chan clan's patriarch Chan Sheng, the Wang clan's patriarch Wang Yuanqing, and the Lu clan's ancestor Lu Chengshang of Luchuan town were all killed by Zhuoan alone. Among them, Chan Sheng was at the half-step corporeal Yang realm, Wang Yuanqing was at the initial human king realm, and Lu Chengshang was at the advanced human king realm. All 3 of them were killed by Zhuoan alone. Gu Lai bitterly smiled as he spoke a sentence that caused Gu Yutian to be stunned. Even Grandmaster Tsang Mu's expression froze at this moment. Chapter 158. Ancient Cavern. Chan Sheng and Wang Yuanqing were really killed by Zhuoan alone? Wang Yuanqing's cultivation is at the initial human king realm. How could someone like him be killed? Gu Yutian picked his ears again. His eyes suddenly bulged as he looked at Gu Lai and asked. Gu Lai laughed bitterly. He had no choice but to bite the bullet and say, This is absolutely true. Even Lu Chengshang, who was at the profound human king realm, was killed by Zhuoan when he was fighting against the Zhuo family, let alone Wang Yuanqing, who was at the initial human king realm. Zhuoan seems to have had some fortuitous encounters. His cultivation base is not high, but his methods are extremely strange. Lingju and the other 2 had also heard it clearly. They were not unfamiliar with the Zhuoan that Gu Lai had mentioned. Wasn't he the disciple with high-grade mental energy talent that Song Mu had mentioned earlier? From what Song Mu had said, his disciple Zhuoan was only 15 or 16 years old. Could it be that a young man like him was strong enough to defeat a great perfection human king? Only those in the perfection of the human king realm or even the earth king realm could kill a great accomplishment of the human king realm. Could it be that there was such a young earth king realm expert in Rotten Armor City? They had never heard of such a young earth king realm martial artist. No matter how heaven-defying a genius was, it was impossible to reach the Earth King realm at the age of 15 or 16. Hearing such strange news, the 3 of them were stunned. Perhaps even the most talented genius in the house of Marquis Qin wouldn't be able to reach the Earth King stage at such a young age. However, Gu Lai's next sentence immediately caused the place to become silent once again. Moreover, Zhuowen's mental energy seems to have reached grade 2. Back then when he fought with Chen Shang, he revealed his powerful mental energy. Even Chen Shang could not deal with that kind of mental energy. Clearly he has reached grade 2. A 16-year-old grade 2 arcana master. The 9th commandery princess covered her mouth and muttered to herself in disbelief. Immediately, the three of them turned their heads tacitly and looked at Master Tsangmu, who was also in a daze. Feeling Lingju, the 9th commandery princess, in Su Chang's gaze, Master Tsangmu smiled bitterly and spread his hands to show that he was not clear. However, his heart was violently shaken by Gu Lai's news. He remembered that Zhuo had only tempered his mental energy for less than a year. In such a short period of time, his mental energy had already reached grade 2. Wasn't this speed and talent a little terrifying? After Master Tsangmu, the 9 commandery princess, the 9th commandery princess 9 commandery Young 9 commandery's eyes. The 9th commandery princess's beautiful eyes were full of curiosity. She was more and more interested in the young man whom she had never met before. In the Godstone Square, the Zhuo family's people were mixed in with the huge crowd. Looking at the arrogant 9th commandery princess and the respectful Gu Yutian in the square, Zhuo realized that the three people who had suddenly appeared were probably the people from the house of Marquis Qin that Zhuo Xiangding had mentioned. However, he was puzzled. What was so special about this small rattan armor city that attracted the three of them to come here? In the main hall of the governor's mansion, Lingju, the 9th commandery princess, and Su Chong were treated as VIPs and sat in the main seats. Gu Yutian, Gu Lai, and Songmu sat in the lower seats. Governor Gu, you should know why we are here. So I will not beat around the bush. Let's get straight to the point. The 9th commandery princess, who was sitting in the highest seat, said with a straight face. I would like to hear the details. I only have a smattering of knowledge and hope that princess will be able to dispel my doubts. Gu Yutian cupped his fists and said in a rather meticulous manner. Rattan Armor City is located above the Annihilation Forest. In the Annihilation Forest, there is a dangerous place called the Heaven's Fiend Dark Eye. You should all know this. The 9th commandery princess paused and glanced at the people in the hall. Then she spoke again. Father, a month ago, he sensed that the Heavenly Fiend Dark Eye was rioting. Although he didn't know who caused this rioting, it was this rioting that caused the power of the Heavenly Fiend Dark Eye to weaken by a lot. Due to the weakening of its power, the trace of restriction power within was detected by Lord Father. Thus Father followed this trace of restriction power, and used the limitless heaven and earth secret technique, to discover that there was actually an ancient cave dwelling within the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye. As soon as the 9th commandery princess finished her words, Gu Yuetian and the other two people in the main hall suddenly trembled. Ancient cave dwelling? They did not expect that there was an ancient cave dwelling in the Heaven's Fiend Dark Eye. There were records in ancient books. 10,000 years ago, there were many sects and geniuses everywhere in the Heavenly Armor continent. There were countless sages among them. Now, there were only a few sages and even some divine-level experts in the divine transformation realm. However, there were vague records in the ancient books. 10,000 years ago, there seemed to have been an earth-shattering catastrophe. As for the details of the catastrophe, it was exceptionally vague. However, after the catastrophe, the entire Heavenly Armor continent had declined. Countless sages had fallen in the catastrophe 10,000 years ago. Countless emperors and marquises had disappeared in the river of time. It was this catastrophe that had caused the martial arts of the entire Heavenly Armor continent to decline to this extent. Now, even sages were elusive. Therefore, the later generations called the era 10,000 years ago the Ancient Era, and the era from 10,000 years ago to the present was called the Modern Era. Almost every warrior in the Ancient Era had extremely powerful strength. It was said that the strength of their bodies was comparable to that of the powerful meta beasts. They were blessed by nature. Compared to warriors of the same level, warriors from the Ancient Era were much stronger than warriors from the Modern Era. The ancient cave dwellings were mansions opened by the strongest warriors in the Ancient Era. It was said that these mansions were created by the strong warriors from the Ancient Era. They used the power of space to open up a space in the void, and used it as a place for their own cultivation. Spiritual herbs, spiritual treasures, secret techniques, armor techniques, and many other resources could be found in the cave dwellings. If a warrior only needed to get a few of them, it could be said to be a great adventure. In the Qingxian Empire, there had been a warrior with mediocre aptitude and ordinary cultivation, who had accidentally obtained the secret treasures of the cave dwellings. In a short period of time, his cultivation had broken through repeatedly. His cultivation speed had almost surpassed that of a group of geniuses. From then on, he became the most dazzling young warrior in the entire empire. Such legends were innumerable in the Qingxian Empire and even the entire eastern lands. It was these legends that caused everyone to scramble for the ancient cave dwelling. However, most of the ancient cave dwellings were located in independent spaces. Moreover, the outside of the ancient cave dwellings were concealed by restrictive spells. Therefore, finding one was like finding a needle in a haystack. Now, there was actually an ancient cave dwelling in the vicinity of Rattan Armor City. Even Gu Yutian and Song Mu were shocked. Their eyes were filled with shock. However, after the shock, a trace of joy appeared on their faces. If the news about the ancient cave dwelling was true, then they would have a chance to enter the cave dwelling. If they were lucky, they might even be able to obtain some benefits from it. However, you don't have to be happy too early. There is a layer of restrictive spells outside the ancient cave dwelling. According to my father's estimation, that layer of restrictive spells can only be broken by the strength of an ultimate Emperor Realm warrior. Or perhaps, 3-peak Heavenly King Realm warriors can also break the restrictive spells of the ancient cave dwelling. The 9th Commandery Princess also noticed the strange expressions on the faces of Gu Yutian and the others. She laughed coldly and sneered. Gu Yutian was taken aback. Soon after, he gave a dry laugh as he scratched his head, following which, he remained silent. He knew that as the governor of a small low-grade city, he did not have the slightest authority to speak in front of the three of them. However, you can rest assured that if the restrictive spells of the ancient cave dwelling are broken, no one will stop you from entering. Moreover, my father has already estimated that the ancient cave dwelling in the eyes of Tian Shaming should be a deserted ancient cave dwelling. The resources inside should not be as abundant as imagined. Therefore, the ancient cave dwelling will be used as a training ground for the younger warriors of the Marquis residence. The experts of the older generation will not interfere. Next, Marquis Muqin, Marquis Baichuan, and Marquis Yongsheng will send people over again. Other than the 3 marquises of the commandery capital, some other forces may send people over as well. Therefore, Rattan Armor City will be very lively for a period of time. Therefore, Governor Gu, please make more preparations. The 9th Commandery Princess cast a sidelong glance at Gu Yutian. Her pretty face revealed a trace of arrogance as she spoke calmly. Don't worry, Commandery Princess. I will arrange everything well. Gu Yutian clasped his hands and said respectfully. The 9th Commandery Princess nodded slightly. After a few more words, she left the hall with Lingju and Su Chang. Under Gu Lai's lead, they went to the rooms that had been arranged for them to rest. Looking at the backs of the 9th Commandery Princess and the other two, Gu Yutian's face revealed a thoughtful expression. Finally, he sighed softly and said to himself, "It seems that Rattan Armor City will not be peaceful soon. I really did not expect that an ancient cave dwelling would appear in the Annihilation Forest. I really don't know if this is our luck or our misfortune. Now we can only take one step at a time. After all, this involves the forces of the 3 marquises of the commandery capital. This is not something that we can interfere with. As long as we don't make any moves, we will not get into big trouble." Master Karaki gently patted Gu Yutian's shoulder and said with a sigh. Just as the two of them fell into silence, a servant came in from outside the hall. He knelt down and said respectfully, "Sir, young Master Zhuowen wishes to see you." "Zhuowen? Let him in quickly." Gu Yutian and Master Karaki looked at each other and said hurriedly. Chapter 159. Academy of Fine Arts. At the entrance of the hall, a slender figure of a young man slowly walked into the hall. His delicate face was expressionless. "Zhuowen greets the city lord and Master Tsang Mu." Kneeling on one knee, Zhuowen bowed slightly and said with a slightly respectful tone. The moment Zhuowen entered the hall, Grandmaster Cangmu, who was seated on his seat, appeared in front of Zhuowen in a flash. Then, he gently extended his right hand and placed it on Zhuowen's forehead. At the same time, a tidal wave of mental energy suddenly erupted in the hall. Soon after, it spread throughout the entire hall. In an instant, the entire hall fell into a thick pressure. This spiritual power? Sure enough, he had reached the second rank. Zhuowen, how did you cultivate your spiritual power? How did he advance so quickly? Master Karaki's hands trembled as he gently helped Zhuowen up. His lips trembled as he spoke emotionally. Guyu Tian also sensed the sudden appearance of a strong mental strength in the hall. The strength of this mental strength was indeed at the level of a rank 2 martial artist. Although he had already heard from Gulai that Zhuowen's mental energy had indeed reached rank 2, his heart still trembled violently when he saw it with his own eyes. Everyone knew that the cultivation of mental strength was much more difficult than the cultivation of martial arts. However, the young man in front of him had completely defied common sense. His progress in mental strength was much faster than that of martial arts. Zhuowen scratched his head and smiled shyly. He lowered his head and said, "Actually, I don't know why my spiritual power improved so quickly. I just followed the method you gave me, and as I practiced, I broke through. As for the reason, I don't know." Zhuowen shrugged with an innocent smile on his face, as if he was completely ignorant of the situation. The reason why Zhuowen's spiritual power had advanced so quickly was naturally due to the help of the tyrannical blood and the ice-fire holy symbol. However, these two were secrets that would make people jealous, so Zhuowen naturally wouldn't be stupid enough to tell them everything. He just attributed it to an unintentional breakthrough. You broke through while practicing? When Master Karaki and Guyu Tian heard this, the corners of their eyes involuntarily twitched a few times. In the end, the two of them could only helplessly sigh. At the same time, they defined Zhuowen in their hearts. This young man in front of them was simply a monster. He was a guy who could not be judged by common sense. "Zhuowen, you came to the city lord's mansion because you have something to ask of me, right? If there's anything you need, just say it. As long as I can do it, I'll do my best to satisfy you." Guyu Tian was, after all, the lord of a city. His ability to read people's expressions was top-notch. He could see that the young man in front of him was worried. It was obvious that he had something to ask of him. As for the reason why Guyu Tian was so forthright, it was because he saw the potential in Zhuowen's body, to be able to become a grade 2 arcana master at such a young age, and to be able to defeat a human king realm cultivator by himself. If he didn't have a good relationship with such a young talent, it could only be said that Guyu Tian's brain was flooded with water. Looking at Guyu Tian's bright smile in front of him, Zhuowen's heart felt warm. Although he knew that Guyu Tian's enthusiasm was very likely related to his previous shocking actions, he didn't believe that with the City Lord's Mansion's intelligence network, he wouldn't be unaware of the dispute between the Zhua family, the Wang family, and the Chan family. However, before this, Guyu Tian had given him a lot of help, so he remembered this kindness in his heart. Then it's better to accept deferentially than to decline courteously. Actually, my request is very simple. I just wanted to ask about the excellent Divine Academy. Do you know anything about it? Zhuowen scratched his head and said somewhat embarrassedly. Excellent Divine Academy? Grandmaster Karaki and Guyu Tian looked at each other, revealing a strange expression as they spoke in unison. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Zhuowen was a little curious about Guyu Tian and Grandmaster Karaki's expressions. Zhuowen, why are you asking about the excellent Divine Academy? Also, where did you hear about the excellent Divine Academy from? Grandmaster Karaki, who had been silent, suddenly opened his mouth. Zhuowen was startled and could only casually make up a lie, saying that he had accidentally heard about it and was just curious. Grandmaster Karaki and Guyu Tian didn't suspect anything. Actually, it's not a big deal. The excellent Divine Academy is also a power in the Eastern Lands, but it's also considered a huge existence in the Eastern Lands. It's the second largest power in the Eastern Lands, and its strength is only below the Blue Dragon Hall. However, it's said that the excellent Divine Academy's overall strength isn't inferior to the Blue Dragon Hall, but their high-end strength is a little weaker. That's why they're below the Blue Dragon Hall. Gu Yutian rubbed his chin and said with a solemn expression. Zhuowen was shocked. He didn't think that the excellent Divine Academy's strength would be so strong. Their overall strength was actually not inferior to the Blue Dragon Hall. This was something he hadn't expected. Then if I want to join the excellent Divine Academy, what are the conditions? Zhuowen asked cautiously, but his heart was fiercely clenched. He had to join the excellent Divine Academy. Not to mention the huge amount of resources, just the fact that they had the Holy Ice Fire Talisman was enough to force Zhuowen to join the excellent Divine Academy. After all, after experiencing the might of the Holy Ice Fire Talisman, Zhuowen definitely wouldn't give up on such a powerful method. Join the excellent Divine Academy? Zhuowen, you intend to join the excellent Divine Academy? Gu Yutian's gaze was once again filled with shock as he stared at the quiet youth in front of him. He couldn't help but ask in a sharp voice. Even Master Karaki's face was filled with shock. Is there a problem? Zhuowen's heart skipped a beat, but he still braced himself and asked. From Gu Yutian's expression, he could tell that the conditions to join the excellent Divine Academy were very high. Otherwise, he wouldn't have revealed such a constipated expression. There's a huge problem. Zhuowen, I'll tell you the truth. The excellent Divine Academy is the second largest power in the Eastern lands, and the conditions to join are extremely harsh. The most basic condition is to obtain the strength of a marquis before the age of 30. In other words, you have to reach the ultimate emperor realm before the age of 30, and this is the lowest requirement. Apart from that, there's also an entrance examination. Even if you meet the most basic conditions, if you don't pass the entrance examination, you still won't be able to enter the excellent Divine Academy. Now you can imagine how difficult it is to enter the excellent Divine Academy. When Zhuowen heard this, he was momentarily stunned. He wanted to curse out loud. Weren't the conditions to enter the excellent Divine Academy a little too perverted? The most basic condition was to reach the ultimate emperor realm before the age of 30. This kind of cultivator would be considered a super genius in the Qingxian Empire, but in the excellent Divine Academy, they were the lowest of the low. Thinking about the perverted conditions of the excellent Divine Academy, even Zhuowen felt a trace of helplessness in his heart. Was this even a condition that a human could pass? Looking at the defeated expression on the youth's face, Master Karaki sighed and said, "The excellent Divine Academy is a colossus, and it's not something that we can climb up to. Even in the entire Qingxian Empire, there aren't many who have the qualifications to enter the excellent Divine Academy. Even if there are, most of them would have been eliminated in the entrance examination. Zhuowen, your talent is already considered very high. I believe that if you slowly develop, you will definitely be able to become one of the top experts in the entire Qingxian Empire. As for the excellent Divine Academy and the other superpowers of the Eastern lands, they are simply too far away from us." Clenching his fist, Zhuowen's gaze instantly became resolute. He looked seriously at Master Karaki and Gu Yutian and said with a faint smile, "Actually, it's not that the excellent Divine Academy is too far away from us, but that we have set our own position too low." Looking at the serious face of the young man in front of her, the teasing expression on the 9th Commandery Princess's face gradually disappeared. Her beautiful eyes stared at the young man in front of her with a strange look. She said, "You really intend to participate in the Vitality Tower battle and even the Battle of the 9 Counties? You should know that countless geniuses from the entire empire will gather there. To stand out among so many geniuses is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Don't think that just because you are invincible among the younger generation in Rattan Armor City, that all the geniuses in the Qingxian Empire are no match for you. If that's what you think, I'd advise you to give up on the idea of participating in the Vitality Tower battle. Don't lose your life when the time comes. Are you trying to say that I am a frog at the bottom of a well? However, you may have missed a point. The frog at the bottom of the well is short-sighted because he has always been at the bottom of the well. However, if the frog at the bottom of the well jumps out of the well, then he will be able to see a different sky. What I want to do is to jump out of the well and find a higher world. I don't want to stay at the bottom of the well for the rest of my life. Sometimes. At this point, Zhuowen's face suddenly revealed a trace of a calm smile. His smile was calm and indifferent, but his eyes contained a trace of unyieldingness and sharpness. Sometimes, the courage to keep moving forward is more important and precious than a mediocre life. Looking at the young man in front of her who was smiling unyieldingly, the ninth commandery princess suddenly froze. Her smile also froze. She did not expect the young man's answer to be so different. Courage is more precious than life? If this is your true opinion, I am looking forward to your performance. Strength is not just a matter of words. It depends on the real strength of your hands. After muttering to herself, the ninth commandery princess once again let out a tinkling laughter. Then she slowly left the hall, but her clear laughter echoed in the hall. It seems that the ninth commandery princess appeared in the hall this time for you. Even the house of Marquis Qin can't ignore your talent of mental strength. Zhuowen, if you join the house of Marquis Qin, you should be able to get more resources. At that time, your chances of entering the top 100 in the Vitality Tower battle will also increase a lot. Gazing at the ninth commandery princess's silhouette, Gu Yutian came to Zhuowen's side and suddenly said. Zhuowen shook his head. The ninth commandery princess was quite scheming. The conversation just now seemed to be simple, but in fact it was tit for tat. Zhuowen's answer was very clear, that was, he would not join the house of Marquis Qin. Governor, you know my character. I don't like to be bound by restrictions. If I join the house of Marquis Qin, although there are many benefits, there are more restrictions. That's not the life I want. Zhuowen shook his head and said, spreading out his hands. In fact, Zhuowen had something he didn't say in his heart. He had many secrets. If he were to enter Muqin Marquis Mansion where experts were as common as clouds, the chances of him being exposed would be very high. But you also need to be careful of the ninth commandery princess. Although she seems to be innocent, she is quite scheming. She hates it when people go against her will. Maybe she will give you some obstacles later. But you are a second-grade arcanist, so she won't dare to kill you. Master Kuraki sighed. Apparently, he was familiar with the ninth commandery princess's character. Thank you for your reminder, Master Kuraki. I will be careful. But why did the ninth commandery princess come to Rattan Armor City? I don't think there is anything in Rattan Armor City that the house of Marquis Qin is interested in. Zhuowen nodded slightly, and then asked in confusion. Gu Yutian and Master Kuraki looked at each other. Then they told Zhuowen about the appearance of the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye in the ancient cavern. They did not hide anything from Zhuowen. After all, Zhuowen's strength was on par with theirs. Naturally, they would not hide these things. An ancient cavern appeared in the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye? Zhuowen was shocked, and then he muttered to himself. According to Gu Yutian, the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye went berserk for some unknown reason a month ago. That was why Marquis Qin of the prefecture capital sensed the restrictive power in the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye. Then he used the infinite heaven and earth secret technique to calculate that there was an ancient cavern in the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye. Zhuowen knew that the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye went berserk because of the commotion caused by him refining the holy ice fire symbol. But of course, Zhuowen was not stupid enough to say this out loud. Recently, many forces from the prefecture capital will come to Rattan Armor City. So Zhuo family should be more careful. Don't get into conflict with those forces. Otherwise, the Zhuo family will be at a disadvantage, Gu Yutian said seriously. Zhuowen nodded slightly, and then said, Governor, the battle for the quota to enter the Vitality Tower in Rattan Armor City should be starting soon, right? How many quotas does our Rattan Armor City have to enter the Vitality Tower? Rattan Armor City only has 3 quotas. With your strength, it should not be a problem to get a quota. The battle for the quota will start in about 3 days. At that time, the other forces in Rattan Armor City will send their top juniors to participate. The location will be in the outskirts of Rattan Armor City. Chapter 161. Ice Fire. 3 days passed by like flowing water. In these 3 days, the originally deserted Rattan Armor City had become even more lively. Many unknown factions swarmed into the small Rattan Armor City like locusts. These factions were not native to Rattan Armor City, but had come from the county capital. Whether it was strength or numbers, they were many times stronger than the other factions in Rattan Armor City. As Rattan Armor City became more and more lively, the rumors of the ancient cave mansion also gradually spread. It was this rumor that caused all the warriors in Rattan Armor City to explode. Everyone understood the significance of the ancient cave mansion. The resources within were sufficient to turn a mediocre person into a genius, and allow a weak person to become a strong person. Therefore, some of the warriors who were hoping for a fluke rubbed their hands together and prepared to enter the ancient cave mansion. On a thick rock at Tianju Cliff, a young man sat cross-legged quietly. The young man gently waved his right hand, and the ice symbol on the back of his right hand emitted an icy blue light. The cold air below Tianju Cliff immediately surged into his right palm. At the same time, the young man patted his Qingkuan bag with his left hand and took out a fiery red stone. The fiery red surface of the stone emitted a scorching heat. This stone was called a Yang Yuan stone. It contained a strong Yang fire qi. Many warriors who had advanced to the corporeal Yang stage relied on absorbing the Yang fire qi in the Yang Yuan stone to condense their armor. The Yang fire qi in the Yang Yuan stone had reached the common level. The cold air in Tianju Cliff was also at the common level. Therefore, these two types of fire and ice energy were just right for Zhuowen to practice the ice-fire sacred symbol. Yang Yuan stones were not rare items. In Master Tsongmu's trading center, there was a sufficient reserve of Yang Yuan stones. Therefore, Zhuowen did not hesitate to take away a quarter of Master Tsongmu's Yang Yuan stones. At that time, when Grandmaster Karaki saw Zhuowen take away so many Yang Yuan stones, his face turned green. Fortunately, Zhuowen's Qingkuan bag had been replaced with the Tyrant Blood's high-grade Qingkuan bag. The space inside was much larger than his previous low-grade Qingkuan bag, which was why he could store so many Yang Yuan stones. After taking out the Yang Yuan stones, Zhuowen's left hand suddenly squeezed. The Yang Yuan stones were instantly crushed and a surge of flames immediately gushed out. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He carefully controlled the two types of extreme energy in his hands and slowly brought them together. At the same time, Zhuowen had to divide his attention on the ice-fire sacred symbol. The ice-fire holy symbol had an abnormal control over the two energies of ice and fire. This kind of extreme control had unimaginable benefits for the fusion of the two energies. Only when the ratio of the two energies was fixed could the five-colored energy ball be on the verge of exploding. The instant Zhuowen tossed out the energy ball, the critical point of the explosion within the ball would be in an extremely unstable state. When it hit an object, the multicolored energy ball would explode with an extremely terrifying explosive energy. Sizzle! A faint sound slowly rang out. Soon after, strands of sparks leaped out from Zhuowen's hands. Soon after, a muffled thunder-like sound slowly rang out. Zhuowen's hands suddenly intertwined as the two extreme energies in his hands completely fused together. A five-colored energy ball finally slowly floated above Zhuowen's right hand. A rapidly destructive and powerful aura escaped from the energy ball. Phew! After 3 days of hard work, I finally have a preliminary understanding of the ice-fire sacred symbol's fusion secret. In the future, this five-colored energy ball will be called the ice-fire ball. This name is rather appropriate. Zhuowen wiped off a trace of cold sweat on his forehead as he spoke with an excited look in his eyes. Not bad. Based on your current physical fitness, fusing the ordinary level ice and fire energy should be just right for you. If you go one level higher and fuse the mortal level ice and fire energy, I'm afraid that you will end up like last time. When your Yuan power is exhausted, even moving will become a luxury. Moreover, this name that you have obtained is quite good. In that case, let's call it Ice Fire. Xiao He had appeared on Zhuowen's shoulder at an unknown time. She looked at the five-colored energy ball in his hand and spoke with some satisfaction. Therefore, it is best that you do not merge the Nirvana demon flame within the sacred symbol, and the cold aura of the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye unless you are in a desperate situation. Zhuowen nodded slightly. Zhuowen also agreed with Xiao He's suggestion. I'm afraid that the competition for the spots is about to begin. We should also head over and participate. Zhuowen stared indifferently at the 5-colored energy ball in his right hand. With a gentle flick of his right hand, he threw the 5-colored energy ball into the endless cold air at the bottom of Absolute Sky Cliff. Immediately, his entire body transformed into a ghost-like illusory figure and disappeared from the spot. Not long after Zhuowen left, an earth-shaking explosion was violently transmitted from the bottom of the Absolute Sky Cliff. Immediately, an endless white, cold chi rushed to the sky from the bottom of the cliff, appearing as though an enormous tornado had been stirred. At this moment, quite a number of people had already gathered in the courtyard in front of the city governor's mansion. Gu Yutian was among them. A man and a woman were standing beside Gu Yutian. The man was wearing white clothes. His demeanor was refined and elegant. The woman was wearing a red dress. Her skin was whiter than snow, and her actions were appropriate and generous. The white-clothed man was Gu Xian, Gu Yutian's eldest son. The woman was naturally Gu Yu. The two of them stood on the left and right of Gu Yutian. Other than Gu Yu and Gu Xian, there were also a couple of young men around 20 years of age standing behind Gu Yutian. The expressions of these few young men were calm. Their temples were bulging. Clearly they were quite strong. On the other hand, Master Kuraki stood side by side with Gu Yutian, looking calm and composed. As for Gu Yutian, there was another group of people standing beside him. Among them, the most eye-catching one was a girl in a green dress. The girl had snow-white skin, rosy lips, and rosy cheeks. Her appearance was even prettier than Gu Yu's. What was more attractive was that the girl in the green dress had a pair of lively eyes. It was as if they were alive, attracting the attention of many people. Princess, Zhuowen doesn't know what's good for him. You have already personally invited him. How could he not appreciate your kindness and refuse to join the house of Marquis Qin? What an arrogant and conceited boy. Why don't we just kill him on the spot? Su Chong, who was wearing a blue robe, stood quietly beside the 9th Commandery Princess. He gently waved his folding fan and said in a low voice, "Yesterday, he had heard that the 9th Commandery Princess had personally gone to the hall to meet Zhuowen. Although he felt that the 9th Commandery Princess had made a fuss over a minor issue, what surprised him was that Zhuowen refused the 9th Commandery Princess's invitation. This was beyond Su Chang's expectation. Since Marquis Muqin was the ruler of the entire Muqin County, his Marquis mansion had unimaginable resources and countless masters. As long as one joined the house of Marquis Qin, no matter if it was status, power, or wealth, they would all be at his fingertips. Countless warriors in the entire Muqin County had tried their best to join the house of Marquis Qin but failed. Now that the Honorable Commandery Princess had personally invited him, it was the first time that Su Chong had seen someone refuse. That guy is indeed overconfident. But some of his words are quite philosophical. However, that fellow personally rejected my invitation, so I won't let him off so easily. Isn't there going to be a competition for the quota of the entire Rattan Armor City later? In that case, I'd like to see just how capable that fellow is." Speaking of this, the 9th Commandery Princess's beautiful eyes suddenly revealed a trace of craftiness. She immediately turned to the old man behind her and said, "Lingjiu, take out the purple gold door. Later, I'll be in charge of the competition for the quota of the Rattan Armor City. Zhuowen, that fellow, won't be able to escape from the palm of my hand." Purple gold door. Commandery Princess, the purple gold door is the spiritual treasure of the third master. The third master will be here in a few days. I'm afraid it's not appropriate to use the spiritual treasure of the third master without his permission. Lingju's old face revealed a trace of hesitation as he spoke. "Humph. It's me who's borrowing it, not you. What are you afraid of? Moreover, the third master loves me. If he's here, he'll definitely borrow it. You don't have to worry about it. If anything happens, I'll take responsibility for it." The 9th Commandery Princess pouted her lips and snorted. Lingju wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead. The third master he mentioned was the third son of Marquis Muqin, Lu Yuanhua. It was said that Lu Yuanhua was cold and heartless, and his methods were cruel. Many servants in the house of Marquis Qin were afraid of the third master. However, as the ninth commandery princess had said, the cold and heartless third master loved the ninth commandery princess very much. After thinking for a while, Lingju had no choice but to agree. Immediately, he patted his chinkuan bag and a black shadow appeared in his palm. This black shadow was a palm-sized purple gold door. On the surface of the purple gold door, there was a splendid purple gold door, which looked quite mysterious. After receiving the purple gold door from Lingju's hand, the ninth commandery princess's eyes suddenly turned into crescents. A smile appeared on her face, and a pair of cute little canine teeth could be vaguely seen. She could not help but attract the attention of many people. Not long after the ninth commandery princess received the purple gold door, several figures came into the governor's mansion. As he stared at the few figures that had appeared at the entrance, Gu Yutian's eyes hardened, before a glint appeared in his eyes. Soon after, he laughed heartily as he walked in front of the few figures, before he heavily patted the leader's shoulder. "Zhuo family head, I haven't seen you for a long time. Your body is getting stronger and stronger. I also want to congratulate the Zhuo family head for successfully reaching the Human King realm. Your Zhuo clan's victory over the Wang and Chang clans is well deserved." These figures were the members of the Zhuo family. Zhuo Xiangding stood in the front. Behind him were Zhuowen, Zhuo Baitian, and Zhuo Dingtian. This time, Zhuo Xiangding did not bring many people. He only brought a few important people. After all, this competition was Zhuowen's own business. The Zhuo family could not help much. However, Zhuo Xiangding was full of confidence in Zhuowen. After all, in the battle with the Wang family and the Chun family, Zhuowen's powerful strength had completely conquered the Zhuo family. Chapter 162. Ingshula Zhuo Xiangding and Gu Yutian chatted for a while. Then, under the introduction of Gu Yutian, all the members of the Zhuo family greeted the ninth commandery princess one by one. However, when Zhuowen passed by the ninth commandery princess, the ninth commandery princess stared straight at him. No matter how thick-skinned Zhuo Xiangding was, he could not stand it. Somehow, Zhuowen could feel that the ninth commandery princess was staring at him like a hunter staring at his prey. Her eyes were full of ridicule and arrogance, which made Zhuowen a little uncomfortable. After arriving at the group behind Gu Yutian, the white-clothed Gu Xian couldn't help but glance at Zhuowen. He had also heard about the recent rumors about Zhuowen, especially the absurd rumor that Zhuowen had actually killed a human king realm cultivator. Even he was filled with disbelief. Half-step to corporeal yang stage? Gu Xian muttered to herself. Her eyes were filled with doubt and doubt. Zhuowen's aura was only at the half-step yang realm. Although he knew that Zhuowen's mind power had reached level 2, could he really kill a human king realm warrior with such strength? What Gu Xian didn't know was that Zhuowen's main strength lay in the Ice-Fire Saint symbol, and the ice and fire energy it contained. That was his ultimate trump card. The moment Zhuowen appeared, Gu Yu's complicated gaze continuously paused on Zhuowen's body. She had heard of Zhuowen's various feats recently. She did not expect that Zhuowen would actually grow to such an extent after not seeing him for half a year. Zhuowen silently stood at the back of the group with his eyes narrowed, as if he was taking a nap. However, a clear voice quickly sounded beside his ears. "Zhuowen, were you really the one who killed Chen Shang and Wang Yuanxing?" Tilting his head, Zhuowen happened to see Gu Yu staring at him with a smile. Slightly stunned, Zhuowen scratched his head embarrassedly and said with a smile, "I was just lucky." In fact, the process at that time was not as exaggerated as the rumors say. Gu Yu's beautiful eyes moved as she stared at Zhuowen. From Zhuowen's expression, she could see that the young man in front of her didn't want to talk too much about the situation. Therefore, Gu Yu lowered her eyelids and deliberately avoided the topic. Instead, she chatted with Zhuowen about other things. While chatting, Zhuowen also noticed that Gu Yu's cultivation had reached the third stage of the corporeal yang realm. However, what shocked Zhuowen even more was that Gu Xian, who had been silently standing beside Gu Yutian, had reached the ninth stage of the corporeal yang realm. Zhuowen remembered that half a year ago, Gu Xian seemed to be at the half-step corporeal yang realm. In just half a year, her cultivation had actually jumped so many levels. This made Zhuowen see the foundation of the City Lord Mansion once again. From this, it could be seen that Gu Yutian had invested a lot in Gu Xian. Gu Yutian, who was in front of the group, also saw that everyone had arrived. Therefore, he shouted and led the group towards the outskirts in a grandiose manner. 10 miles away from Rattan Armor City, there was a rather remote open space. The open space was a deserted field with weeds growing in it. However, the area was quite large. In these 3 days, Gu Yutian had already sent people to cut the weeds in the open space and built a large arena on the open space. The arena was built with hard bluestone. There were 2 in each direction, making a total of 8 arenas. They were placed on the open space and looked rather neat and mighty. At this time, many warriors had already gathered around the arena. Among them, there was no lack of mercenaries. After all, there were quite a number of mercenaries in Rattan Armor City. The warriors gathered around the arena were basically the local forces of Rattan Armor City. As for the forces from the commandery capital, they naturally had no interest in this kind of competition for the quota in Rattan Armor City. Therefore, the 9th Commandery Princess and the others were probably the only forces from the commandery capital who were willing to come and watch the competition for the quota. When Gu Yutian and his group appeared on the open space, many warriors at the scene discussed animatedly and took the initiative to open a path for them. Around the arena, there was a high platform that had been temporarily set up. There were many empty seats on the high platform. Gu Yutian led the group to the high platform and took their seats, as they began to wait for the other participating factions to arrive. Seated on the high platform, Zhuowen sized up the surrounding martial artists. When he discovered that the martial artists around him were of varying strengths, he narrowed his eyes in a disinterested manner and closed them to rest his mind. However, this kind of rest did not last for long. Suddenly, an ear-piercing sound of rushing wind was heard. Then, a few figures appeared on the high platform. There were only 4 people in this group, and the leader was an old man with white hair and beard. However, the old man had a kind and benevolent smile on his face, which made people feel that this old man was amiable at first glance. Although the old man's smile was quite amiable, the aura on his body was as vast as the ocean. This aura had already surpassed the peak of the corporeal yang stage. Zhuowen could feel that the old man's aura was even stronger than his grandfather, Zhuoxiangding. It was not much different from the dead Lu Chengshang. Advanced Human King Realm. Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He did not expect that the leader of the force that had just appeared was already at the Advanced Human King Realm. This surprised Zhuowen. It seemed that there were many crouching tigers and hidden dragons in Rattan Armor City. That is the head of the Huban sect, Hu Xiao. The Huban sect is an extremely powerful force in Rattan Armor City. Their overall strength is only slightly weaker than the City Lord Mansion. As Zhuowen was observing the old man, Gu Yutian's voice sounded from behind him. Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes wandered and looked at the black-haired young man behind the old man. The young man's appearance was rather rough. He was tall and burly. The muscles on his body were like coiled roots. He looked quite terrifying. That is the head disciple of the Huban sect's head, Hu Xiao Hu Wuing. I heard that this person has inherited Hu Zhao's true teachings. His cracking tiger racing fist has reached perfection. I'm afraid his strength has reached the 9th grade of the corporeal yang stage. After introducing the old man, Gu Yutian did not forget to introduce the burly young man behind the old man. As Zhuowen stared at the black-haired young man, the latter seemed to sense it and tilted his head. His gaze met with Zhuowen's. Immediately, a humming sound that resembled a monstrous roar swept across Zhuowen's mind. This tiger roar was not executed by the black-haired young man. Instead, it was an aura that was involuntarily released from his body after he cultivated the cracking tiger racing fist to the extreme. Zhuowen's expression was calm and his body did not move. When the roaring aura approached him, a pervasive cold air flashed across Zhuowen's eyes and easily cancelled out the aura emitted by the black-haired young man. Oh, interesting. A warrior who is half a step to the corporeal yang stage can actually cancel out the aura of the cracking tiger racing fist. Moreover, this fellow doesn't seem to be strained at all. The aura dissipated. A trace of surprise flashed across the black-haired young man's eyes as he spoke with a smile. A warrior who is half a step to the corporeal yang stage can actually cancel out the aura of your fist. Interesting. Looking at the position that Kid is standing, he should be one of the contestants sent by the city governor's mansion. It seems that the city governor's mansion is getting worse year by year. They actually sent a kid who is half a step to the corporeal yang stage to participate in the slot competition. The white-haired old man Hu Xiao also noticed the small friction between Hu Wuing and Zhuowen. He stroked his white beard and said with a faint smile. The black-haired young man Hu Wuing nodded slightly. He immediately focused his gaze on Gu Xian, who was standing in front of Zhuowen. He calmly said, "It seems that the strong opponent this time should be Gu Xian. Judging from her aura, she should have reached the corporeal yang stage 9. Following the arrival of the Huban sect, other forces in Vine Armor City also arrived. However, these forces' foundations were obviously much weaker than the Huban sect's. None of the leaders were above the corporeal yang stage, and the strength of the juniors they brought was uneven. Zhuowen even saw a few contestants who were only at the Yin Void stage. It was obvious that these forces were only here to make up the scene. At the same time, they also wanted to see the slot competition. With the arrival of many forces, the entire open space became more and more lively. There were also many people sitting on the high platforms around the arena. Just as the liveliness reached its peak, another violent sound of breaking wind rang out from afar. Soon after, 3 figures appeared proudly on the high platform. However, the moment these 3 figures appeared, the scene suddenly fell into a brief silence. Even Gu Yutian, who was standing in front of Zhuowen, was silent. His gaze was fixed on the 5 figures that had just appeared. The attentive Zhuowen even noticed that when these 5 figures appeared, Gu Yutian's body suddenly trembled, as if his body had been pushed by someone. Zhuowen was a little puzzled by Gu Yutian's abnormal behavior. Hence, he focused his gaze on the 3 figures that had just appeared on the high platform. The leader of the 3 figures was a middle-aged man in a long black robe. His eyes were cold and gloomy. A cold aura, like that of winter in the 12th lunar month, spread out from the middle-aged man's body. The moment this aura spread out, the entire arena fell into a gloomy and cold atmosphere. Feeling the gloomy and cold aura from the middle-aged man, Zhuowen's pupils involuntarily shrank. He could feel that the aura from the middle-aged man's body was even stronger than Hu Xiao from the Tiger Ben sect. It was obvious that the middle-aged man in front of him was a perfect human king stage expert. He only needed a moment of enlightenment to reach the Earth King stage, which was the realm that the number 1 expert in Rotan Armor City, Gu Yutian, was currently at. The sect leader of the Yin Sifting sect, Ingshulo, Gu Yutian's gloomy voice slowly spread out around the arena. His gaze was fixed on the middle-aged man in the black robe who had just appeared. Hehe, so it's Gu Yutian. Every time there is a slot battle you come so early. However, I'm afraid that you will return disappointed again. Ingshuelua's gloomy and cold eyes stared at Gu Yutian as his cold laughter rang out. Ingshuelua, don't you think it's too early to be happy? Don't let your joy turn to sorrow. Gu Yutian smiled faintly, but his gaze became increasingly unfriendly. Dong dong. Not long after the Yin Sifting sect's arrival, a few more forces landed on the high platform. However, the remaining forces were clearly much weaker than the City Lord's mansion, the Huban sect, and the Yin Sifting sect. Zhuowen knew that the 3 spots for this competition would be decided by these 3 forces. When all the factions had arrived, Gu Yutian also stood up from the high platform. As the number 1 practitioner in Rotan Armor City, and also the City Lord of Rotan Armor City, he was naturally the one in charge of the competition for the quotas. However, just as he was about to open his mouth to speak, a silver bell-like laughter resounded across the entire empty ground. City Lord Gu, why don't you let me preside over this competition? This bird-like laughter immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the open space. Immediately, everyone's gaze focused on the girl in a green dress at the top of the high platform. Princess, this doesn't seem to be in accordance with the rules. After all, this is Rotan Armor City. Before Gu Yutian could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by the 9th Commandery Princess. The ninth commandery princess put her hands on her hips and curled her cherry lips. Are you looking down on me? Seeing the ninth commandery princess's attitude, Gu Tian could only helplessly nod his head and say, since the ninth commandery princess wants to preside over this competition, I naturally have no objections. Seeing that Gu Tian had agreed, the ninth commandery princess's lips curled into a charming smile. However, many forces in the open space began to discuss spiritedly. Among them, the leader of the Huban sect, Hu Xiao, and the leader of the Yin sifting sect, Ing Shuolua, were not looking at the girl in the green dress. Instead, they were looking at the white-haired Lingju behind her. They could feel that the Lingju was emitting an inexplicably powerful aura. That aura was even more powerful than Gu Tian's. Coupled with the way Gu Tian addressed the girl, they knew that these people must be the forces from the prefecture capital that had caused a stir in the past few days. Although the Huban sect and the Yin sifting sect had some guesses about the forces behind the ninth commandery princess and thus did not dare to act rashly, the other forces were obviously not as far-sighted as the two forces. Soon one of the forces stood up. It was a middle-aged man who seemed to be the leader. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at the ninth commandery princess with disdain. He sneered and said, "Where did this little girl come from? Do you think we must let you preside over the competition just because you said so? Why don't you look at yourself in the mirror? Perhaps it would be more practical for you to warm my bed." At this point, the middle-aged man stared at the ninth commandery princess with a hint of lust in his eyes. Obviously, he was thinking of something bad. However, after the middle-aged man finished his words, he felt that something was wrong. The originally dense crowd had unknowingly moved away from him, as if they were avoiding the plague. Zhuowen looked at the middle-aged man who was not far away with pity. This middle-aged man was obviously not well informed. He did not even know the identity of the ninth commandery princess. Moreover, this man was not very smart. Just now, Gu Tian had called the ninth commandery princess. How could he not know that the ninth commandery princess was not an ordinary person? It seemed that the idiom pig-like teammate referred to this kind of person. On the high platform, the smile on the ninth commandery princess's face became brighter like a blooming rose. Her watery eyes stared at the middle-aged man who still did not know what was going on. She smiled faintly and said, "It has been a long time since someone said such rude words to me. Now that I think about it, it is a bit strange. Princess, how should we deal with this man?" Lingju, who was behind her, stood up slowly. She stared at the middle-aged man emotionlessly as if she was looking at a dead man. "Break his limbs, throw him into a pigsty and keep him there for 49 days. Then kill him." The ninth commandery princess still had a bright smile on her face, but her eyes were filled with coldness. Lingju nodded slightly and raised her right hand slightly. For spiral-like Yuanli cyclones shot towards the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man did not even know what was going on. He could only watch as the four cyclones ruthlessly shot towards his four limbs like merciless blades. He only felt an intense pain coming from his four limbs. Soon after, he involuntarily fell backwards. His protruding eye sockets could clearly see that his limbs had been separated from his body. "Ah!" A miserable shriek slowly spread throughout the empty space. Many people who heard it felt a sense of horror in their hearts. The middle-aged man, whose limbs had been cut off, was already half a step away from the Zhao King realm. However, Lingju, who was on the high platform, only moved her fingers and easily broke his limbs. At the same time, two soldiers carried the middle-aged man away according to the ninth commandery princess's instructions. They must have sent him to the pigsty nearby. On the high platform, Zhuowen could not help but feel a chill in his heart as he looked at the girl who had ordered to break the man's limbs without even blinking her eyes. Although the young lady in front of him was about the same age as him, the coldness and scheming that she displayed caused Zhuowen to feel a chill in his heart. It seemed that none of the children of marquises were simple. The ninth commandery princess seemed to have noticed Zhuowen's gaze. She tilted her head and stared at Zhuowen with her watery eyes. Her snow-white face revealed a playful smile as if the order to break the man's limbs had nothing to do with her. After the shock just now, the atmosphere in the open space suddenly became strange. Many people stared at the girl on the high platform and the Lingju behind her with fear. Now, who still has a problem with me being the host of this competition? If there is, just say it. I will accept it with an open mind. The 9th Commandery Princess smiled brightly again and said with a playful wink. However, the Lingju behind her suddenly straightened her body. An extremely heavy aura suddenly burst out from her body. Like a mountain, it heavily pressed down on the open space. Many people could not help but kneel down under this pressure. Their breathing became extremely rapid. The strength of the peak of the Heavenly King stage? Hu Xiao, the leader of the Tiger Ben sect, and Ying Shuolua, the leader of the Yin Sifting sect, felt the powerful aura from the Lingju and their pupils shrank. Although they had some guesses about the Lingju on the high platform, they did not expect that the Lingju's cultivation had reached the peak of the Heavenly King stage. This kind of strength was not only in Tungjia City, but even in the commandery capital she was not weak. Looking at the silent crowd, the 9th Commandery Princess nodded with satisfaction and said, "Since no one has any objections, it would be impolite of me to refuse. Since I am the host of this competition, then the competition will be carried out according to my rules. Therefore, in the first round of the competition, there is no need to fight one-on-one. It is better to have a great battle royale. Of course, this kind of battle royale is a competition between the forces of each force as a whole. Only the 3 forces who survive in the end are qualified to fight for the final 3 places." Speaking of this, the 9th Commandery Princess nodded to the Lingju behind her. Immediately, the Lingju stepped lightly on the ground. Her whole body was like a vigorous eagle as she flew toward the arena in the open space. The moment she flew, a powerful Yuan power burst out from her body. 8 huge Yuan power palms suddenly condensed from her back. The 8 Yuan power palms swept in all directions and grabbed the 8 bluestone arenas in the open space. Then, with a fierce tug, the 8 arenas suddenly gathered together in midair under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Boom! You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.